Before we begin today's story, help support the channel by liking and subscribing. It motivates us to keep creating more unforgettable stories.
They called it a wedding. I called it a funeral. Mine. The man who bought me didn't even look at me during the ceremony. Adrian Volkov, the name whispered in fear across every dark corner of the city, signed the papers like I was property. And I was. My father's debts, written in my blood, paid with my future. They said I'd live in luxury. They didn't mention I'd be a ghost haunting a glass tower, married to a man who treated me like air. But tonight, everything changes. Tonight he's taking me somewhere, and the look in his eyes says I should be terrified. If you want to see how this dangerous love story unfolds, stay until the end. And drop a comment with your city name so I can see how far this story travels across the world. The penthouse smelled like expensive whiskey and cold decisions. Lena Hart stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows of Adrian Volkov's fortress in the sky, watching the city lights blur 40 stories below. 3 months. 3 months since the wedding that wasn't really a wedding, since she'd walked down an aisle in the registry office wearing a dress her father's assistant had picked out, since she'd signed papers that made her Mrs. Volkov in name only. She pressed her palm against the glass. It was always cold, no matter the season. Like everything else in this place. Behind her, the penthouse stretched out in minimalist perfection, all sharp edges and black marble, leather furniture that had never been properly sat in, art on the walls that probably cost more than her childhood home. It was beautiful the way a mausoleum was beautiful. Perfect and lifeless. Her reflection stared back at her. 24 years old, dark hair pulled back in a simple knot, wearing clothes that cost a fortune but felt like a costume. She barely recognized herself anymore. The elevator chimed. Lena's spine straightened automatically. She didn't turn around. She'd learned not to seem too eager, too present. Adrian preferred when she was invisible. His footsteps crossed the marble floor, measured, controlled, like everything about him. She caught his reflection in the window as he approached. Tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a suit that probably cost more than most people's cars. Dark hair, darker eyes, a face that would have been handsome if it wasn't so cold. Adrian Volkov, the man who owned half the city's underground and the other half's silence. The man who'd bought her like livestock. "Pack a bag," he said without preamble. His voice was deep, accented with something Eastern European that he had mostly buried under years in America. "We're leaving in an hour." Lena turned slowly. "Leaving?" Did I stutter? He didn't look at her, already moving toward his study. "1 bag. Bring whatever you need for 2 weeks." 2 weeks? Where? Does it matter? He paused at the doorway, finally meeting her eyes. His were the color of a winter storm, gray and merciless. "You'll be with me either way." The door closed behind him. Lena stood frozen, her heart hammering against her ribs. In 3 months, Adrian had barely spoken 20 sentences to her. He left before she woke, returned after she'd retreated to her separate bedroom. They existed in the same space like strangers in an elevator, counting down the floors in silence. And now he wanted her to pack a bag. She moved mechanically to her bedroom, decorated in soft creams and whites, as impersonal as a hotel suite. Her closet held designer clothes she'd never chosen, shoes she'd never worn except when absolutely necessary. She pulled out a suitcase and started folding things, her hands shaking slightly. 2 weeks. Alone with a man who'd never touched her, never even looked at her long enough to see her as human. What had changed? Lena. She spun. Adrian filled the doorway, jacket removed, sleeves rolled up to reveal forearms corded with muscle. She'd never seen him this casual. It made him seem more dangerous somehow, less civilized. "Yes?" Her voice came out smaller than she'd intended. He studied her with those cold eyes, and for the first time she felt like he was actually seeing her. Really looking. The intensity of it made her want to step back, but she held her ground. "Don't overthink it," he said quietly. "It's just a trip." "You've barely said 10 words to me in 3 months, and now you want me to—" "I'm aware." Something flickered across his face. "Things are changing." "What things?" "Pack your bag, Lena." He turned to leave, then stopped. "And bring something nice to wear. Where we're going, you won't need to hide." Hide. The word echoed in the empty room after he left. Was that what she'd been doing? Hiding? Yes. She'd been making herself small, invisible, trying to survive in a world she never asked to enter. Her father's gambling debts, his desperation, his pathetic gratitude when Adrian had offered a solution. Michael Hart had sold his daughter to save his own skin, and Lena had gone along because what choice did she have? She'd thought marriage to a monster would be violent. Instead, it had been worse. It had been nothing at all. But now, standing in this sterile bedroom with her husband's words hanging in the air, she felt something shift. Fear, yes, but also something else. Curiosity, maybe. Or the desperate hope that anything would be better than this frozen existence. She finished packing. An hour later, she stood in the penthouse foyer with her single suitcase, wearing jeans and a sweater because she had no idea where they were going. Adrian emerged from his study in dark pants and a black shirt, casual but still commanding. He had his own bag and a phone pressed to his ear. I don't care what Marcus wants. Tell him the shipment moves on my schedule, not his. He listened, eyes scanning her. No, I'll be unreachable for 2 weeks. Victor knows what to do. He ended the call. Ready? He asked. I don't even know where we're going. You'll see. He picked up both bags like they weighed nothing. Let's go. The elevator ride down was silent. Lena studied their reflection in the polished doors. They looked like strangers. Maybe that's all they'd ever be. A black car waited at the curb, driver standing at attention. But Adrian waved him off and opened the back door himself, gesturing for Lena to get in. She slid across the leather seat, and he followed, the door closing them into intimate proximity. The car pulled into traffic. We're going to the airport, Adrian said, staring out his window. Private terminal? From there, about 8 hours to the island. What island? Mine. He turned to look at her. I own it. No one knows about it except a handful of people. It's private. Lena's throat went dry. Why now? Because I'm tired of pretending. The words came out sharp, and she saw his jaw clench. 3 months of living like strangers in the same cage. I'm done with it. You're the one who made the rules, she said, anger suddenly flaring. You're the one who said this was just business, that I was just a transaction, I remember. His eyes locked on hers. I lied. The world tilted. What? Adrian leaned back against the seat, his gaze never leaving her face. This marriage was never just about your father's debts, Lena. That was convenient, yes. It gave me what I wanted without complications. But the reason I agreed to take you instead of just killing your father like I should have... He paused. I wanted you. Lena couldn't breathe. You... What? I've been watching you for 2 years. He said it like he was discussing the weather. Since that charity gala where your father dragged you along to beg for more extensions on his loans. You wore a blue dress. You stood in the corner drinking champagne, looking like you wanted to disappear. She remembered that night, remembered the humiliation of watching her father grovel, remembered a man across the room whose stare had made her skin prickle with awareness. That was you, she whispered. That was me. Adrian's voice dropped lower. And I've thought about you every day since. So when your father came begging again, when he offered anything to clear his debts, I saw an opportunity. To buy me. To have you. He leaned forward, closing the space between them. There's a difference. No, there isn't. Lena pressed back against the door. You bought me. Like property. Like I had no choice. You didn't have a choice. Neither did I. His hand shot out, not grabbing her, but pressing against the leather beside her head, caging her in. You think I wanted this? To be the kind of man who buys a wife? I spent 3 months trying to convince myself to let you go, to keep this cold and distant and businesslike until you hated me enough to leave. Why? The question came out broken. Because wanting you makes me weak. His face was inches from hers, close enough that she could see flecks of blue in those gray eyes. Because the things I've done, the world I live in, you deserve better than that. I thought if I kept my distance, you'd eventually run. Find some normal life. Some normal man who could give you normal things. Then why are we on our way to your island? Adrian's lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. Because I'm done pretending to be noble. I'm a selfish bastard, Lena, and I'm tired of fighting what I want. The car turned into the private terminal. Through the window, Lena could see a sleek jet waiting on the tarmac, all black with silver accents. Luxury and danger wrapped in metal. What if I don't want this? She asked quietly. What if I don't want you? He pulled back, his expression unreadable. Then you tell me, and when we get back, I'll arrange a divorce. You'll get enough money to live comfortably anywhere you want. I'll make sure your father's debts are erased from every record. The car stopped. But for these 2 weeks, give me a chance. Get to know me. Let me get to know you. Not as owner and possession, but as... what? Husband and wife? She laughed bitterly. We're strangers. Then let's stop being strangers. He opened the door, stepped out, then turned back to offer his hand. 2 weeks, Lena. That's all I'm asking. She stared at his outstretched hand. Strong, scarred knuckles. A hand that had probably done terrible things. A hand that was offering her... what? A chance? A trap? The smart thing would be to refuse. To demand he take her back to the penthouse. To count down the days until she could escape this gilded prison. But when had being smart ever gotten her anywhere? Lena took his hand. The jet was as luxurious as she'd expected. Cream leather seats, polished wood accents, soft lighting. A flight attendant greeted them with champagne that Lena accepted without drinking. Adrian settled into a seat across from her, laptop already open. Back to business, apparently. She watched him type, the focused intensity he brought to everything, and tried to reconcile this man with the one who'd just confessed to watching her for 2 years. Why blue? She asked suddenly. He looked up. What? You said I wore a blue dress at the gala. Why do you remember the color? Adrian closed the laptop slowly. Because it matched your eyes when you were angry. Your father had just introduced you to some investor who looked at you like meat, and you got this look, polite on the surface, but your eyes went ice blue with rage. He paused. I thought it was the most honest thing I'd seen in years. Lena's chest tightened. She did remember that investor. Remembered his hand on her lower back, his breath smelling like cigars and entitlement. Remembered smiling through it because that's what her father needed. You saw that? I see everything. Adrian stood, moving to the bar. Want something stronger than champagne? Yes. He poured 2 glasses of something amber and returned, handing her one before settling into the seat beside her instead of across. The jet began to taxi. Tell me something true, Adrian said. What? We're strangers, like you said. So tell me something true about yourself. Not the things I could find in a background check. Something real. Lena took a sip of the whiskey. It burned, but it felt good. I hate classical music. Adrian's eyebrows rose. You played piano at the gala. Because my father made me learn. Said cultured daughters were more marketable. The bitterness leaked through. I hate every second of it. Give me rock music, something loud and angry. Noted. He smiled. Actually smiled, and it transformed his face. What else? I wanted to be a teacher. The words came out before she could stop them. Elementary school. I love kids. I love the idea of being the person who makes learning exciting instead of terrifying. Why didn't you? Because my father's debts kept growing, and I had to drop out of college to work, to help pay them down. She met his eyes. Not that it mattered. He just gambled more. Adrian's expression darkened. Your father is a coward. He's my father. That doesn't make him less of a coward. He drained his glass. I should have killed him. Why didn't you? She shouldn't ask, shouldn't want to know, because then I couldn't have you. Simple, brutal, honest. The jet lifted into the air, pressing them back into their seats. Lena's stomach flipped, and she wasn't sure if it was the altitude or the man beside her. Your turn, she said. Tell me something true. Adrian was quiet for a long moment. I'm afraid of silence. That surprised her. What? Growing up, silence meant danger, meant someone was planning something, or someone was already dead. His voice was distant. I fill my life with noise now. Business, phones, people. But at night, when it's quiet, that's when the ghosts come. Lena turned to study his profile. What ghosts? Everyone I've killed. Everyone I've failed to save. He looked at her. Everyone I've hurt to get where I am. Do you regret it? No? The honesty in that word was chilling. I regret the necessity of it, but not the outcome. This world, Lena, the one I live in, it's built on power and fear. You're either the one with the knife or the one bleeding. I decided a long time ago which I'd be. And me? She had to know. What am I in your world? Adrian reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away, and brushed a strand of hair from her face. His fingers lingered on her jaw. You're the only soft thing I've ever wanted to keep, he said quietly. And that terrifies me more than any enemy I've ever faced. The flight attendant appeared, breaking the moment. We'll be serving dinner soon. Any preferences? Adrian pulled back. Whatever you've prepared is fine. They ate at a small table, some kind of gourmet pasta that Lena barely tasted. The conversation shifted to safer topics. Books they'd read, places they'd traveled, or in her case, hadn't traveled. It felt surreal, this casual intimacy with a man she'd only seen from a distance for months. But underneath the pleasantries, Lena felt the current of something darker. The way Adrian's eyes tracked her movements. The tension in his shoulders when she laughed at something. The possession in his voice when he talked about his island. This wasn't a honeymoon. This was a claiming. And she wasn't sure if she wanted to fight it or give in. Hours later, the pilot announced their descent. Lena pressed her face to the window, trying to see through the darkness. All she could make out were lights scattered across what looked like dense jungle and the silver shimmer of moonlight on water. The landing was smooth. When they exited the jet, warm tropical air hit her like a wall, thick with the scent of flowers and salt water. A jeep waited on the small runway, driver already holding the door. It's beautiful, Lena breathed, staring up at stars so bright they looked fake. Wait until you see it in daylight. Adrian guided her to the jeep with a hand on her lower back. The casual touch sent electricity up her spine. The drive took 20 minutes through dense vegetation, headlights cutting through darkness. Then they emerged onto a coastal road, and Lena gasped. The house, if you could call it that, sprawled along the cliff edge, all white stone and glass, modern architecture blending with the natural landscape. Lights glowed warm against the night, and beyond it, the ocean stretched infinite and black. Adrian, this is home, he said it simply. The only place I feel like myself. Inside was just as stunning. High ceilings, open floor plans, comfortable furniture that actually looked lived in. Artwork on the walls that seemed chosen for love rather than investment. And everywhere, windows that would frame the ocean when morning came. Your room is upstairs, Adrian said, leading her up a floating staircase. First door on the right. Mine is at the end of the hall. He pushed open the door to reveal a massive suite done in whites and blues, with a private balcony overlooking the water. Her suitcase was already waiting on the bed. Get some rest, Adrian said from the doorway. We'll talk more tomorrow. Adrian? She turned to face him. Thank you for bringing me here. For trying. Something softened in his expression. Don't thank me yet, Lena. You don't know what I'm capable of. He closed the door. Lena stood in the beautiful room, listening to his footsteps retreat down the hall. Her heart was racing, her mind spinning with everything that had happened in the past few hours. She should be scared. She should be planning escape routes. Instead, she walked to the balcony and stepped out into the warm night. The ocean whispered against the rocks below, endless and dark. Above, the stars wheeled in patterns she'd never seen from the city. For the first time in 3 months, maybe in years, Lena felt something other than numb resignation. She felt alive. Lena woke to sunlight streaming through white curtains and the sound of waves. For a moment, she forgot where she was. Then it all came rushing back. The flight, Adrian's confession, the island. She pulled on a sundress from her suitcase and ventured downstairs. The house was even more stunning in daylight, all the windows showcasing views of turquoise water and white sand beaches. Adrian was on the back terrace, shirtless in swim trunks, doing pull-ups on a bar attached to the pergola. Lena stopped in the doorway, unable to look away. She'd known he was strong. You didn't survive in his world without being dangerous. But seeing him like this, muscles flexing with controlled power, was different. He dropped down, grabbing a towel, and turned, caught her staring. "Morning," he said, not bothering to hide his amusement. "Morning." Lena's cheeks heated. "I didn't mean to interrupt." "You're not." He walked toward her, and she tried very hard to keep her eyes on his face. "Hungry? I was about to make breakfast." "You cook?" "Is that so surprising? You have an army of staff at the penthouse." "Here, I prefer privacy." He brushed past her into the kitchen, and she caught the scent of salt water and something distinctly him. "Besides, I'm good with my hands." The way he said it made her stomach flip. She followed him into the kitchen, all modern appliances and marble counters. Adrian moved with easy confidence, pulling out eggs and vegetables, setting a pan on the stove. "Coffee?" he asked. "Please." He poured her a cup from a French press, somehow knowing she took it black. They worked in comfortable silence, Adrian cooking while Lena sat at the counter watching. It was domestic, normal, everything their real life wasn't. "Tell me about this place," she said. "How did you find it?" Adrian cracked eggs into the pan. 5 years ago, I was in a bad place. Business was expanding, but I was drowning in it. I needed somewhere to think, somewhere no one could reach me." He added vegetables, the sizzle filling the air. "I found this island by accident. The previous owner was in debt to some people who owed me favors. I made a deal." "You seem to make a lot of deals." "It's what I do." He plated the omelet and slid it in front of her with toast. "Eat." It was delicious. Lena told him so, and he smiled that rare smile again. "What do you want to do today?" Adrian asked, making his own plate. "I don't know. What is there to do?" "Beach, snorkeling. There's a pool, a library. Or we could just talk." He sat beside her. "I want to know you, Lena. The real you. Not the ghost who haunts my penthouse." The words should have felt invasive. Instead, they felt like a lifeline. "Okay," she said softly. "But you have to answer my questions too." "Deal." They spent the morning on the beach. Adrian showed her the best spots for shells, pointed out fish in the crystal clear water, taught her how to float on her back and stare at the cloudless sky. He was patient, careful not to touch her too much, giving her space while making his presence known. And they talked. Lena learned that Adrian had grown up in Moscow, the son of a low-level enforcer who drank himself to death when Adrian was 12. That he'd survived on the streets until a crime boss noticed his intelligence and ruthlessness. That he'd built his empire from nothing through blood and strategy and an absolute refusal to stay down. "I killed my first man when I was 17, he said, floating beside her in the water. "He was trying to take over my mentor's territory. I shot him in an alley behind a nightclub." "Did it bother you?" Lena asked. "Yes." He turned to look at her. "And then it didn't. That's what scares me most. How easy it became." She told him about her mother, who died when Lena was 10. About growing up with a father who gambled away every dollar and blamed everyone else for his problems. About dropping out of college, working 3 jobs, trying so hard to fix something that was never hers to fix. "I thought if I just worked hard enough, he'd change," she said, staring at the sky. "I thought he'd see what I was sacrificing and it would matter." "Did it?" "No. He sold me instead." Adrian's hand found hers in the water, squeezing gently. "I'm sorry." "For what?" "You didn't make him who he is." "No, but I took advantage of it." His voice was rough. "I saw an opportunity and I took it, without thinking about what it meant for you." Lena turned to face him, treading water. "If you could go back, would you change it?" Adrian held her gaze. "No, I'd just do it differently. I'd court you properly, take you to dinner, make you laugh, show you who I was before making you mine." He swam closer. "But the ending would be the same. You, with me. Because I'm a selfish bastard, Lena, and I want you more than I've wanted anything." The honesty in his words was devastating. "I don't know how to be with someone like you," she whispered. "Then let me teach you." He reached out, cupping her face with one wet hand. 2 weeks. That's all I'm asking. If you still want to leave after that, I'll let you go. I swear it." Lena should have said no, should have protected herself. Instead, she leaned into his touch. "Okay." "Gam." The days blurred together in a haze of sun and salt water and slowly lowering walls. Adrian was attentive without being overwhelming. He made her breakfast every morning, challenged her to card games every evening, asked her questions that made her think. He told her stories about his empire that should have terrified her, but instead fascinated her. The strategy, the chess games played with human lives, the absolute certainty with which he moved through his world. And he touched her. Not sexually, not demanding, but constantly. A hand on her back as they walked, fingers brushing hers as he passed her a drink. His leg pressed against hers when they sat watching the sunset, claiming her inch by inch. On the fifth night, they lay on the beach watching stars, a blanket beneath them and wine warming her blood. "What happens when we go back?" Lena asked. Adrian turned his head to look at her. "What do you want to happen?" "I don't know." She met his eyes. "This feels like a dream, like we're playing pretend, but back there in the real world. I'm still a criminal. You're still the girl I bought." He said it flatly. "Yes." Adrian sat up, pulling his knees to his chest. "I can't change what I am, Lena. I can't wake up tomorrow and be a good man. The things I've done, they don't wash off. I'm not asking you to change." The words surprised her, but they were true. "I just need to know what this is, what we are." He turned to face her fully. "What do you want us to be?" "Real." Lena sat up too. "I want this to be real. Not a transaction or a business arrangement or a 2-week escape. If we're going to do this, if I'm going to stay, I need it to mean something." Adrian's eyes darkened. "It means everything." He moved faster than she expected, one hand sliding into her hair, the other cupping her jaw. His mouth crashed against hers and Lena gasped at the sudden intensity. He took advantage, deepening the kiss, pouring 3 months of restraint into the connection. Lena had been kissed before, but never like this. Never with this level of possession, this certainty of ownership. Adrian kissed her like he was branding her, marking her as his from the inside out. When he finally pulled back, they were both breathing hard. "Real enough for you?" he asked roughly. Lena touched her lips, still tingling. "Yes." Adrian stood, pulling her up with him. "Let's go inside." She knew what he was asking, knew what would happen if she followed him. She followed him. Adrian's bedroom was at the end of the hall, massive and masculine with a king bed facing floor-to-ceiling windows that framed the ocean. Moonlight streamed through, turning everything silver. He closed the door behind them, then just stood there, watching her. "I need you to be sure," he said quietly. "Once we cross this line, Lena, I won't be able to let you go, even if you ask me to, even if you beg." His voice dropped. "I'll give you anything you want, freedom, space, whatever you need, but you'll still be mine. Do you understand?" Lena's heart was pounding so hard she could barely hear over it. "And what will you be?" "Yours. Simple. Absolute. Every dark, damaged piece of me. Yours." She walked to him slowly, each step a choice. When she reached him, she placed her palm over his heart, feeling it race under her touch. "Then take me," she whispered. "Make me yours." Adrian's control shattered. He kissed her again, harder this time, walking her backward toward the bed. His hands were everywhere, her hair, her waist, sliding under her dress to grip her thighs. Lena gasped into his mouth, overwhelmed by sensation, by the sheer intensity of finally being touched after months of careful distance. They fell onto the bed, and Adrian's weight pressed her into the mattress. It should have felt threatening. Instead, it felt right. "Tell me if I hurt you," he growled against her throat, teeth grazing her pulse point. "Tell me if it's too much." "Don't stop," Lena breathed, arching into him. "Please don't stop." So he didn't. Adrian worshipped her body with a focus that left her breathless. He learned every sound she made, every place that made her gasp, every touch that made her beg. And when he finally claimed her completely, when they moved together in the moonlight with the ocean singing below, Lena understood what he'd meant. This wasn't just sex. This was possession, ownership, a brand that would mark her soul, and she wanted it. After, they lay tangled together, sweat cooling on skin, hearts gradually slowing. Adrian's hand traced patterns on her bare shoulder, his other arm keeping her locked against his chest. "No going back now," he murmured into her hair. I know. Lena tilted her head to look at him. I don't want to go back. His arms tightened around her. Good. Because you're mine now, Lena Hart, in every way that matters. She should have been scared of the possession in his voice, should have recognized the danger in belonging to a man like him, but all she felt was safe. The next morning, everything changed again. Lena woke alone in Adrian's bed, sunlight streaming through the windows. She could hear voices downstairs, Adrian's deep rumble and someone else, urgent and male. She dressed quickly in one of Adrian's shirts and her shorts from yesterday, then ventured down. Adrian stood in the living room fully dressed, phone pressed to his ear, his expression carved from ice. Another man stood nearby, tall, blonde, wearing tactical gear. When? Adrian demanded into the phone. He listened, jaw clenching. How many? Lena froze on the stairs. The man in tactical gear noticed her, his eyes widening slightly. Adrian followed his gaze, saw her. I'll call you back. He ended the call. Lena, go upstairs. What's wrong? Go upstairs now. The command in his voice was absolute. The blonde man stepped forward. Boss, we need to move. I know, Victor. Adrian's eyes never left Lena. Give me 5 minutes. Victor glanced between them, then nodded and walked out onto the terrace, speaking rapidly into a radio. Adrian crossed to her in 3 strides, gripping her shoulders. Listen to me very carefully. Someone knows we're here. Someone who shouldn't. Victor and his team are going to get you somewhere safe while I deal with this. Deal with what? What's happening? Business. His eyes were cold now, the warmth from last night completely gone. The kind that doesn't touch you. The kind I promised myself I'd keep separate from what we have. You can't just shut me out. I can, and I will. He pulled her close, kissing her hard and fast. This is my world, Lena. The ugly part. The part you don't need to see. Trust me to handle it. Footsteps on the terrace. Victor's voice. Boss, they're 10 minutes out. Adrian cursed in Russian. Pack your things. Victor will take you to the safe house on the north side of the island. Stay there until I come for you. Who's coming? Lena demanded. Who would attack you here? Something dark crossed Adrian's face. Someone who's been looking for an opportunity. Someone who thinks you're a weakness they can exploit. He cupped her face. They're wrong, but I need you safe while I prove it. Let me help. No. Final. Absolute. You help by staying alive, by being safe when this is over. That's all I need from you. He kissed her forehead. Go. Now. Lena wanted to argue, wanted to demand answers, but the look in his eyes stopped her. This was the Adrian who'd built an empire on blood and fear. This was the man who'd survived when others died. This was the monster she'd married, and he was trying to protect her. She ran upstairs, throwing her things into her suitcase with shaking hands. Through the window, she could see more men arriving, 8, maybe 10, all armed, all moving with military precision. Victor appeared in her doorway. Mrs. Volkov, we need to go. The name still sounded foreign, but she followed him down the back stairs, out through the kitchen, to a waiting SUV with blacked-out windows. As they pulled away, Lena twisted in her seat to look back. Adrian stood on the terrace, surrounded by armed men, watching her leave. Even from this distance, she could see the tension in his shoulders, the cold fury in his eyes. And she realized something terrifying. She'd fallen in love with him, with the monster, with the man who'd bought her, who'd claimed her, who was willing to kill to keep her safe. She'd fallen in love with Adrian Volkov. And now someone was coming to tear them apart. The SUV accelerated, jungle blurring past the windows. Victor drove in silence, occasionally speaking into his radio in Russian. Beside her, another guard scanned the tree line with hard eyes. What's happening? Lena asked quietly. Victor glanced at her in the rearview mirror. The boss will explain when it's over. Is he in danger? We're all in danger, Mrs. Volkov. His tone wasn't unkind. This is the life we choose. I didn't choose it. No. Victor's eyes met hers in the mirror. But you chose him. That's the same thing. The safe house turned out to be a reinforced bunker hidden in the island's northern hills, camouflaged by jungle and rock. Inside it was sparse but functional. Beds, supplies, weapons mounted on walls. Stay here, Victor instructed. Don't go outside for any reason. We'll defend the perimeter. For how long? Until the boss calls us back. He checked his weapon. Could be an hour, could be longer. Then he was gone, leaving Lena alone in the bunker with only her thoughts and the sound of her racing heart. She paced, checked her phone, no signal, tried the radio, encrypted channels she couldn't access, sat on one of the hard bunks and tried not to imagine what was happening back at the house. Adrian had enemies. Of course he did. You didn't build what he'd built without making people want to tear you down, but she'd been naive enough to think this island was separate from all that. A sanctuary. Nothing was separate from violence when you lived in Adrian's world, and she'd chosen to stay in it. An hour passed, then 2. Lena's nerves were stretched so tight she thought she might scream. Then the radio crackled. "Victor, fall back! They've got—" Static. Then gunfire, distant but unmistakable. Lena's blood turned to ice. More voices on the radio, urgent, overlapping. She caught fragments. "North perimeter? 3 down." "Where's the boss?" Then Victor's voice, sharp with command. "Lockdown protocol. Protect the package." The package. Her. Footsteps outside. Lena grabbed a pistol from the wall rack. She'd learned to shoot when she was working in her father's pawn shop, protection against robbery. Her hand shook, but her grip was solid. The door burst open. Victor stumbled in, blood streaming from a gash on his temple. 2 more guards followed, one supporting the other, who had a bullet wound in his leg. "What happened?" Lena demanded. "They hit the main house harder than we expected." Victor locked the heavy door, throwing deadbolts. "The boss is holding them, but they sent a team after you." "How many?" 4, maybe 5. He checked his weapon. "We took out 2. The others are hunting us." As if on cue, something slammed against the door. Everyone raised their weapons. "Mrs. Volkov," Victor said quietly, "if they get through, you run. There's a tunnel behind the supply locker. It leads to a cave system that opens on the beach. A boat is waiting." "I'm not leaving without Adrian." "The boss gave me one order. Keep you alive." Victor's eyes were hard. "I won't fail him." The door shuddered under another impact. Then another. They were using a battering ram. Lena's heart hammered. 3 men, 1 wounded, against an unknown number of enemies. These weren't good odds. The radio crackled again, Adrian's voice rough with rage. "Victor, status!" Victor grabbed the radio. "Locked down. Under assault. Package is secure." "How many?" "Unknown. At least 3 active." Silence. Then, "Hold them. I'm coming." The door splintered. "Go!" Victor shoved Lena toward the supply locker. "Now!" "I won't. Go!" He fired at the breaking door. "The boss needs you alive. Move!" The wounded guard grabbed her arm, pulling her toward the back. Lena stumbled, heart breaking, as Victor and the other guard positioned themselves between her and the door. The supply locker swung open, revealing a dark tunnel. The guard pushed her forward, limping behind her, as gunfire exploded in the bunker. Lena ran. The tunnel was dark, claustrophobic, smelling of earth and salt water. Behind her, the guard's breathing was labored, his blood leaving a trail on the stone floor. "Keep going," he gasped. "Don't stop." But Lena could hear them coming. Footsteps in the tunnel, voices shouting in a language she didn't recognize. They'd gotten past Victor, which meant Victor was probably dead. Tears blurred her vision, but she kept running. The tunnel sloped down, twisting through the rock, until suddenly it opened onto a cave filled with blue-green light from an underwater entrance. A speedboat bobbed in the shallow water, tied to a natural dock. The guard pushed her toward it. "Go, start the engine. I'll hold them." He never finished. A bullet punched through his chest, and he collapsed. Lena screamed. 3 men emerged from the tunnel, guns raised. One of them smiled. "There you are," he said in accented English. "Mr. Volkov's little bride. He's been very protective of you." Lena backed toward the boat, hand behind her, searching for the gun she'd dropped when she ran. "Don't bother," another man said. "You're coming with us." "No." Lena's voice was steadier than she felt. "I'm not." The first man laughed. "You think you have a choice?" "I think," Lena said, fingers closing around cold metal. Not her gun, but something else, a flare gun mounted on the boat. I'm tired of men thinking they own me. She raised the flare gun and fired. The red flare exploded in the enclosed space, blindingly bright. The men shouted, momentarily blinded, and Lena didn't waste her chance. She jumped into the boat, yanked the engine cord, and gunned it toward the underwater exit as bullets pinged off the rocks around her. The boat shot out into open ocean, sunlight hitting her like a hammer. Lena didn't look back. She aimed for the main house, visible on the cliffs, smoke rising from several locations. Adrian. She had to get to Adrian. Another boat roared out of the cave behind her. They were following. Lena pushed the speedboat harder, wind whipping her hair, salt spray stinging her eyes. The main house grew larger, the beach approaching fast. Too fast. She cut the engine at the last second, the boat scraping against sand. Lena tumbled out, scrambling up the beach toward the house. Behind her, the other boat landed, footsteps pounding after her. Lena ran. She burst through the back door into chaos. The house was destroyed, furniture overturned, windows shattered, bullet holes in the walls. Bodies on the floor, both familiar and strange. "Adrian!" she screamed. Gunfire answered from upstairs. Lena grabbed a gun from a dead guard's hand and ran toward the stairs, adrenaline drowning out fear. The men from the beach were right behind her. She made it halfway up before someone grabbed her ankle. Lena fell hard, the gun skittering away. She kicked back, her heel connecting with something that crunched. The grip released. She scrambled up, burst into the master bedroom, and found Adrian. He stood in the center of the room, blood splattered but unharmed, gun in one hand. At his feet, 2 bodies. At the window, more of his men, securing the perimeter. His eyes locked on hers. "Lena." The man from the beach appeared in the doorway behind her, raising his gun. Everything slowed. Lena saw Adrian's eyes widen. Saw him start to move, to aim, but he was too far away. She wasn't. Lena threw herself sideways, crashing into the gunman as he fired. The bullet went wide, shattering what was left of the window. They hit the floor together, struggling for the weapon. Then Adrian was there, pulling the man off her, and the sickening sound of bone breaking filled the room. The gunman stopped moving. Adrian turned to her, grabbing her shoulders. "Are you hurt? Did they touch you? Did they—" "I'm fine." Lena's voice shook. "Victor, the others, I know." Adrian pulled her against his chest, his heart hammering against her ear. "I know, but you're alive. You're alive, and that's all that matters." More footsteps on the stairs. Adrian spun, gun raised, but it was his men, securing the house. "Building clear, boss," one reported. "All hostiles down. Victor didn't make it. Neither did the others at the bunker." Adrian's arms tightened around Lena. "Casualties on our side?" 4 dead, 3 wounded. "And the one who planned this?" The guard smiled grimly. "Alive. In the basement. Waiting for you." Something dark and terrible crossed Adrian's face. "Good." He looked down at Lena. "I need to finish this. Can you wait here? My men will stay with you." "No." Lena pulled back to meet his eyes. "I want to see." "Lena, you said this is your world, the ugly part." She was shaking, but her voice was steady. "I need to see it, all of it. If I'm going to stay, I need to understand what that means." Adrian studied her for a long moment. Then he nodded. "Okay, but when I tell you to look away, you look away." He led her downstairs through the destroyed house to a door hidden behind the kitchen. The basement beyond was cold and concrete, lit by harsh fluorescent lights. In the center of the room, tied to a chair, was a man in an expensive suit. His face was already bloody. "Mikhail Petrov," Adrian said coldly. "You've been trying to kill me for 6 months." The man spat blood. "You took what was mine." "I took nothing that wasn't offered freely." Adrian circled him slowly. "But you came to my sanctuary. You tried to take what's mine, and you killed my men." "Your men were loyal to money. I offered them more." "They refused, so you killed them anyway." Adrian stopped in front of him. "That was your second mistake." "What was the first?" Adrian's smile was terrifying. "Thinking I'd let you live after threatening her." He glanced at Lena. "Last chance. Wait upstairs." Lena shook her head. "I stay." Adrian nodded slowly. Then he turned back to Petrov. Tell me who else is involved. Names, locations, everything. What followed was brutal and efficient. Adrian didn't enjoy it. Lena could see that, but he didn't hesitate either. He extracted information with surgical precision, breaking Petrov piece by piece until the man was sobbing out names and addresses. When he had everything he needed, Adrian stepped back. Any last words? He asked. Petrov looked at Lena. You think he loves you? He doesn't love anything. He's a monster. He'll destroy you. Maybe, Lena said quietly, but he's my monster. Adrian's eyes flashed to hers, something vulnerable and raw in them. Then he raised his gun and fired. The shot echoed in the concrete room. Petrov slumped, dead. Adrian holstered his weapon and turned to his men. Clean this up. Burn the bodies. Erase any trace they were here. Yes, boss. He took Lena's hand. Come on, let's get you cleaned up. They walked upstairs in silence, through the ruined house, to the master bathroom that had somehow survived intact. Adrian turned on the shower, then started stripping off his blood-soaked clothes. Lena did the same. They stood under the hot water together, washing away blood and salt and fear. Adrian's hands were gentle as he cleaned her, checking for injuries she hadn't noticed. A bruise on her hip, scraped knees from falling, a cut on her palm from the boat. I'm sorry, he said quietly. For what? For bringing you into this, for thinking I could keep you separate from the violence. He tilted her chin up. This is what my life is, Lena. Blood and death and enemies who never stop coming. I can't change that. I know. She touched his face, feeling the stubble rough against her palm. I saw you kill a man, Adrian. I watched you torture him for information, and I'm still here. Why? The question was broken. After everything you've seen, why would you stay? Because I love you. The words came easily, true. Because you're brutal and dangerous and absolutely terrifying, and I love you anyway. Because when I thought you might die, I realized I'd rather live in your violent world than exist in a safe one without you. Adrian stared at her like she'd performed a miracle. You love me. Yes. After all of this, after seeing what I am, because I see what you are. Lena pulled him down, kissing him. I see the monster, and I see the man who makes me breakfast, who taught me to float in the ocean, who kills to protect what's his. She smiled against his lips. I see all of you, Adrian, and I choose you. His control broke. Adrian kissed her like a drowning man finding air, all desperation and need. They made love right there, standing in the shower, the water washing away everything but this. Them, together, choosing each other despite the darkness. After, wrapped in towels on the bathroom floor because the bedroom was still a crime scene, Adrian held her close. I don't deserve you, he said into her hair. Probably not, Lena agreed, but you have me anyway. Forever? She thought about that, about the life she was choosing, the danger, the violence, the constant threat, about becoming the wife of a crime lord, living in a world where people got killed for looking at you wrong. She thought about the alternative, safety, normalcy, a quiet life somewhere far from here, and she knew her answer. Forever, she said. Adrian's arms tightened around her. Then we need to get married again. We're already married. A real wedding this time. Your choice. Your dress. Your terms. He pulled back to look at her. I want you to choose me, Lena, freely, without debts or obligations or force. Just you and me, making a promise we both mean. Tears burned her eyes. Okay? Okay? Yes. She kissed him. Yes. I'll marry you again. For real this time. They sat there on the bathroom floor, holding each other, while outside Adrian's men cleaned up the aftermath of war, while bodies were burned and blood was washed away, and the island slowly returned to its illusion of paradise. But illusion was all it was. Lena understood that now. Understood that loving Adrian Volkov meant living in the spaces between beauty and brutality, between tenderness and terror. And she was okay with that, because for the first time in her life, she wasn't just surviving. She was choosing, and she chose him. The island took 3 days to recover from the attack. though the scars remained. Adrian's men worked around the clock to repair the damage, replacing shattered windows, patching bullet holes, scrubbing blood from white stone. Bodies were disposed of quietly, efficiently, in ways Lena didn't ask about. Some knowledge was better left unspoken. She helped where she could, not with the cleanup, Adrian forbade that, but with the wounded. She'd taken first aid courses years ago when money was tight and she couldn't afford doctors. Now she used those skills to change bandages, monitor fevers, bring water and food to men who'd killed to protect her. They looked at her differently after the attack, not with pity or dismissal, but with something close to respect. She'd run toward danger instead of cowering. She'd fought back. In Adrian's world, that meant something. Victor's funeral was held on the 4th day. They buried him on the island's eastern cliff, overlooking the ocean he'd loved. Adrian stood stone-faced throughout the ceremony, but Lena saw his hands clench when they lowered the casket into the ground. 4 others were buried beside him, the men who'd died protecting her. "I'm sorry," Lena whispered when it was over, the other mourners dispersing. Adrian stared at the fresh graves. They knew the risks. That doesn't make it hurt less. No, his voice was rough. It doesn't. She took his hand, and he squeezed back hard enough to bruise. They stood there as the sun set, painting the sky in shades of blood and gold, honoring the dead in silence. That night, Adrian's phone rang for the first time since the attack. He turned it off immediately after securing the island, refusing all contact with the outside world. Now, looking at the screen, his expression hardened. "I have to take this," he said. Lena nodded, settling deeper into the couch with her book. But she listened as he walked to the terrace, watched through the glass as he paced while talking, his free hand cutting through the air in sharp gestures. When he came back inside 20 minutes later, his face was carved from ice. "We're going back," he announced. "Tomorrow morning." Lena set down her book. What happened? Petrov wasn't working alone. The information he gave me before he died, I've been having my people verify it. Adrian poured himself a drink. Turns out he had a partner. Someone inside my own organization. Someone who fed him details about this island, about my security, about you. Ice flooded her veins. Who? Marcus Chen, my second in command for the West Coast operations. Adrian's laugh was bitter. I trusted him, brought him into the inner circle, and he sold me out for what? A bigger percentage? Control of the ports? Are you sure it's him? 3 different sources confirmed it, plus financial records showing payments from Petrov's shell companies. He drained his glass. Marcus is in Los Angeles right now, probably thinking he's safe, that I'm still here licking my wounds. What are you going to do? Adrian's eyes met hers, cold and merciless. I'm going to remind everyone what happens when you betray me. The flight back to the mainland felt different from the one that had brought them to the island. Then there'd been anticipation, possibility, the tentative hope of something new. Now the jet cabin thrummed with tension as Adrian worked his laptop, making calls, issuing orders in a voice that brooked no argument. Lena watched him transform from the man who'd made her breakfast into the crime lord who ruled an empire. It should have frightened her. Instead, it fascinated her, the way he could compartmentalize, shifting between tenderness and ruthlessness, like changing masks. When we land, Adrian said without looking up from his screen, you'll go to the penthouse with a security detail. Full lockdown. No one in or out except my most trusted people. And you? I'll handle Marcus. Alone? Now he looked at her. I won't be alone. I'll have 50 men. But I won't risk you, Lena. Not again. She leaned forward. I wasn't asking to come. I was asking if you'll be safe. Something softened in his expression. I've survived worse. That's not an answer. Adrian closed his laptop, giving her his full attention. Marcus is dangerous, but he's also predictable. He thinks he's smarter than me. That arrogance will be his downfall. He reached for her hand. I'll come back to you, I promise. You better. Lena's voice cracked slightly. Because I'm not done with you yet. He pulled her into his lap, and she went willingly, tucking her head under his chin. They sat like that for the rest of the flight, not talking, just breathing together while the plane carried them back to reality. Los Angeles sprawled beneath them as they descended, a carpet of lights against the darkness. The private terminal was secure, Adrian's people forming a perimeter as they deplaned. 3 SUVs waited, engines running. "Remember," Adrian said as he handed her into the middle vehicle. "Stay in the penthouse. Don't open the door for anyone. Don't trust anyone except the guards I'm leaving with you. Understood?" "I'm not stupid, Adrian. I know you're not." He kissed her hard. "That's why I'm terrified." Then he was gone, climbing into the lead SUV with 6 heavily armed men. The convoy split, 2 vehicles heading downtown with Adrian, one taking Lena toward the glass tower she'd once thought of as a prison. The penthouse felt different when she stepped off the elevator. The same furniture, the same cold perfection, but it wasn't home anymore. Home was Adrian's arms. Home was the island with its ocean views and easy mornings. This was just a building. Her security detail, 4 men she didn't recognize but who clearly knew their job, swept the space before allowing her to enter. Then they positioned themselves strategically, 2 at the elevator, 1 by the terrace door, 1 doing regular patrols. Lena showered and changed into comfortable clothes, then tried to read, tried to watch television, tried to do anything except imagine what Adrian was doing right now. Her phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. "He's walking into a warehouse on 5th and Main, alone. Thought you should know." Lena's blood went cold. She showed the text to the nearest guard. "Is this true?" The man checked his radio, spoke quietly to someone on the other end, then frowned. The boss just dismissed his backup, told them to wait outside while he goes in alone. "That's suicide," Lena breathed. "Marcus will have men inside. This is obviously a trap. The boss knows what he's doing." "Does he?" She grabbed the guard's arm. "Or is he so angry about being betrayed that he's not thinking straight?" The guard's expression flickered with uncertainty. Lena made a decision. "Take me there." "Ma'am, Mr. Volkov gave explicit orders." "I don't care about his orders." Her voice was steel. "Either you take me or I'll drive myself. Your choice." The guards exchanged looks. Finally, the leader nodded. "You stay in the car. You don't get out no matter what happens. Agreed?" "Agreed." They moved fast, piling into the SUV and racing through nighttime LA traffic. Lena's heart hammered against her ribs. She was probably overreacting. Adrian knew what he was doing. He'd survived decades in this world by being smart and ruthless. But he'd also just lost men he cared about. He was grieving, angry, looking for someone to punish. People made mistakes when they were angry. The warehouse district loomed ahead, all abandoned buildings and broken streetlights. The SUV slowed as they approached 5th and Main, parking in the shadows half a block away. Through the windshield, Lena could see the warehouse, a hulking concrete structure with boarded windows. Adrian's vehicles were parked outside. His men fanned out in defensive positions, but Adrian himself was nowhere to be seen. "He's inside," the guard confirmed, listening to his radio. "Went in 5 minutes ago." "Alone?" "Alone." Lena's stomach twisted. "How many hostiles?" "Unknown. Building's gone dark. They're jamming our surveillance." This was wrong. Everything about this screamed trap. She reached for the door handle. "Ma'am, you promised." "I lied." Lena was already moving, sliding out of the vehicle before the guards could stop her. She ran toward the warehouse, ignoring the shouts behind her. Adrian's men saw her coming, one step forward to intercept, but she dodged around him. "Where is he?" "Mrs. Volkov, you need to get back in the—" "Where is he?" The man's radio crackled, then screaming, gunfire, the sound of something exploding. "South entrance," the guard said, already running. "Move!" They hit the warehouse at a sprint, weapons drawn. Inside was chaos, smoke, darkness, the flash of muzzle fire from somewhere above. Lena stayed low, following the guards as they cleared rooms with practiced efficiency. "Adrian!" she screamed. "Adrian!" "Lena!" His voice came from somewhere to the left, rough with shock. "What the hell are you doing here?" She followed the sound, stumbling through debris, until she found him. He was bleeding from a cut above his eye, pinned down behind a concrete pillar while bullets chewed up the floor around him. "Saving your stubborn ass," she gasped, sliding in beside him. Adrian's eyes blazed. "I told you to stay at the penthouse." "You told me a lot of things." Lena grabbed his face. "You're bleeding." "I'm fine." He pulled her down as bullets screamed overhead. "But you won't be if you don't get out of here." Where's Marcus? Second floor. He set this up perfectly. Knew I'd come alone, knew I'd be too angry to wait for proper backup. Adrian's jaw clenched. He's got at least 20 men up there. And you have. The ones outside, but if they rush in, Marcus escapes through the back. I needed to corner him first. So you walked into a trap. It was calculated risk. It was stupid. Lena kissed him hard. But we'll argue about it later. Right now, we need to get you out. Adrian started to respond, but movement on the second floor caught his attention. A man appeared on the catwalk above. Asian, mid-40s, expensive suit, now rumpled and dirty. Marcus, Adrian growled. Marcus Chen smiled down at them. Adrian, I'd say it's good to see you, but we both know I'd be lying. His accent was pure California, smooth and educated. You really walked right in. I almost feel bad about how easy this was. You should feel dead, Adrian called back. That's what you're about to be. Bold words for a man pinned down. Marcus gestured, and more of his men appeared on the catwalk, all armed. I'll make you a deal. Give me the girl, and I'll let you walk out of here. Lena's blood turned to ice. Adrian's response was to raise his gun and fire. The shot went wide, intentionally, Lena realized. A warning. The girl stays with me, Adrian said coldly. Always. Even if it costs you your empire? Marcus shook his head. She's made you weak, Adrian. The old you would have never walked into this so recklessly. Would have never cared enough about revenge to forget caution. He smiled. Love is a liability in our world. I'm doing you a favor by removing it. Try. Adrian's voice dropped to something deadly. Please. Try to take her from me. I want to watch you fail. Marcus's smile faded. He raised his hand, signaling his men. Lena closed her eyes, certain this was how it ended. Then the lights went out. Complete darkness engulfed the warehouse. Lena felt Adrian move, pulling her tight against his chest. His mouth was at her ear. When I say run, you run. Straight back the way we came. Don't stop. Don't look back. Don't wait for me. Adrian, promise me. She couldn't, wouldn't, not when it meant leaving him to die. But before she could argue, the gunfire started again, except this time it was coming from outside. Adrian's backup, finally moving in under cover of darkness. Go! Adrian shoved her toward the exit. Now! Lena ran. Not because she wanted to, but because staying would distract him, make him vulnerable. She sprinted through the darkness, hands outstretched, following the sound of friendly voices calling directions. She burst out into the night air, into the arms of Adrian's guards. Get her in the car, someone shouted. No! Lena fought against their grip. I'm not leaving him. Ma'am, please. The explosion lit up the night sky. The second floor of the warehouse erupted in flames, the blast wave knocking everyone to the ground. Lena's ears rang, her vision swimming with spots of light. When she could see again, the warehouse was an inferno, and Adrian was still inside. Lena screamed his name, struggling against the guards holding her back. The heat was intense, the fire spreading fast, consuming the old building like kindling. We have to go in, she sobbed. We have to get him. It's too dangerous, the guard said, but he looked sick about it. The whole structure's compromised. A figure emerged from the flames. Adrian stumbled out carrying someone over his shoulder. Marcus, unconscious or dead. His clothes were singed, his face black with soot, but he was alive. Lena broke free and ran to him. Adrian dropped Marcus at his men's feet and caught her, both of them nearly falling. You're alive, she gasped against his chest. You're alive. Did you think I'd die and leave you? His voice was rough from smoke. I made a promise. Behind them, the warehouse collapsed in a shower of sparks. Adrian's men secured Marcus, checking for weapons, calling for medical transport. He's alive, one reported. Barely. Good. Adrian's arms tightened around Lena. I want him to stand trial. I want everyone to see what happens to traitors. Boss, the authorities? We'll find nothing. Clean this up. Make it look like a gas leak. He pulled back to look at Lena, his eyes fierce. And someone explained to me how my wife ended up in the middle of a war zone. The guard shifted uncomfortably. She insisted, sir. She insisted. Adrian's laugh was half cough. Of course she did. He touched her face gently despite his anger. You could have died. So could you. That's why I came. I had it under control. You were pinned down and outnumbered. It was part of the plan. What plan? To get yourself killed? They glared at each other, both furious and terrified and overwhelmingly relieved. Then Adrian kissed her, hard and desperate, tasting like smoke and ash and survival. Don't ever do that again, he said against her lips. Which part? Saving you or disobeying orders? Both. Lena smiled despite everything. Then stop walking into traps alone. Deal. Sirens wailed in the distance. Adrian's men moved with practiced efficiency, erasing evidence, securing witnesses, turning chaos into a story the authorities would believe. In the SUV on the way back to the penthouse, Lena finally crashed. The adrenaline drained away, leaving her shaking and exhausted. Adrian pulled her into his lap, wrapping her in his jacket, even though the night was warm. I meant what I said, he murmured into her hair, about marrying you again, properly this time. When? Soon, as soon as I finish cleaning up this mess. He tilted her chin up. I want you to have the wedding you deserve. The dress, the flowers, the choice, everything. I just want you, Lena said simply. The rest doesn't matter. It matters to me. His thumb traced her lower lip. You gave up everything when you married me the first time. Your freedom, your dreams, your future. The least I can do is give you one day that's exactly what you want. Tears burned her eyes. I didn't give up my future. I found it. Adrian kissed her forehead, her cheeks, her lips. How did I get so lucky? You didn't. You bought me, remember? Best investment I ever made. She laughed, the sound watery but real. They held each other as the city passed by outside, two people who'd found something real in the middle of violence and chaos. Back at the penthouse, Adrian showered while Lena made coffee. Her hand shook as she poured, the reality of what had almost happened finally sinking in. She could have lost him tonight, could have watched him burn in that warehouse while she stood helpless outside. Strong arms wrapped around her from behind. Stop thinking about it, Adrian said softly, his hair still damp, wearing nothing but sleep pants. I'm here. We're both here. I can't stop. Lena turned in his arms. Every time I close my eyes, I see that building collapse. I see you inside it. Then don't close your eyes. He lifted her onto the counter, stepping between her legs. Stay here with me, right now. No past. No what-ifs. Just us. Lena cupped his face, studying the new bruises, the cut above his eye that would scar. Evidence of how close she'd come to losing him. I love you, she said. Even when you're being reckless and stupid and walking into traps alone. I love you too. His hand spanned her waist. Even when you're disobeying direct orders and running into burning buildings. We're a mess. We're perfect. He kissed her slowly, thoroughly, until she forgot about fear and fire and everything except the feel of him against her. Come to bed. She went willingly, letting him carry her to the bedroom, letting him worship her body with hands and mouth and whispered promises. They made love slowly, gently, healing each other with touch and breath and the simple reassurance of being alive. After lying tangled together in silk sheets, Lena traced the scars on Adrian's chest. There were so many, bullet wounds, knife cuts, evidence of a life spent fighting. Tell me about this one, she said, touching a particularly vicious scar below his ribs. Bratva enforcer. I was 19. He didn't like that I was taking over his territory. Adrian's fingers threaded through her hair. I killed him with his own knife. And this? She touched another smaller scar on his shoulder. My mentor, the man who raised me after my father died. His voice went flat. He thought I was getting too ambitious, tried to put me down before I could challenge him. What happened? I shot him. No emotion, just fact. He taught me everything, and I killed him for it. That's the kind of man I am, Lena, the kind who survives by destroying everything close to him. She looked up at him. Not everything. Not me. Not you, he agreed. Never you. Lena kissed each scar she could reach, a benediction over old wounds. Adrian watched her with something close to wonder, like he couldn't quite believe she was real. "When we get married again," he said suddenly, "I want you to write your own vows." "What?" "I want to hear you choose me, in your own words, in front of witnesses. I want to remember it for the rest of my life." Lena's chest tightened. "What will you say?" "The truth." His eyes locked on hers. "That you're the only good thing in my life. That I'd burn the world down to keep you safe. That loving you is the only decent thing I've ever done." "That's not true." "It is." He pulled her on top of him, hands firm on her hips. "Everything else is blood and money and power. You're the only thing that's real." She kissed him, pouring everything she felt into the connection. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Adrian's phone was ringing. He grabbed it with a growl. "What?" Lena couldn't hear the other side of the conversation, but she watched Adrian's expression shift from annoyance to sharp focus. "When?" he demanded. "How many?" A pause. "No, I'm coming down, 20 minutes. He ended the call and looked at Lena. "Marcus is awake. He's asking to talk." "Now? It's 3 in the morning. Apparently he has information about who else is involved in the conspiracy." Adrian kissed her once more. "I have to go. Stay here. Get some rest. I'll be back before sunrise." But Lena was already sliding out of bed, reaching for clothes. "I'm coming with you." "Lena, don't." She pulled on jeans and a sweater. "Don't try to protect me from the ugly parts anymore. I told you on the island, I need to see all of it. I need to understand the world I'm choosing." Adrian studied her for a long moment. Then he nodded. "Okay, but you follow my lead. When I say stay back, you stay back." "Agreed." They dressed quickly and took the private elevator to the sub-basement levels, parts of the building Lena had never seen. The walls down here were concrete, the lighting harsh and industrial. Armed guards stood at intervals, nodding respectfully as Adrian passed. At the end of a long corridor, they reached a reinforced door. Adrian entered a code, pressed his thumb to a scanner, and the locks disengaged with heavy clicks. The room beyond was stark. Concrete walls, a metal table, chairs bolted to the floor. Marcus Chen sat on one side, hands cuffed to the table, looking significantly worse than the last time Lena had seen him. Burns covered half his face, bandages wrapped his torso, and one arm was in a sling. He looked up when they entered, and his eyes widened slightly when he saw Lena. "You brought her," he said. "Interesting. Talk." Adrian pulled out a chair for Lena, then remained standing, arms crossed. "You have 5 minutes to convince me not to put a bullet in your skull." Marcus laughed bitterly. "Always direct. I appreciate that about you, Adrian." He winced, the movement pulling at his injuries. "Fine. I'll talk. But first you need to understand something. I didn't betray you for money or power." "Then why?" "Because you've changed." Marcus met Adrian's eyes. 2 years ago, you were unstoppable, focused. You built this empire with perfect clarity of vision. But then he nodded at Lena, came into the picture, and everything shifted. You became distracted, emotional, weak. Adrian's hand twitched toward his gun. "Let him talk," Lena said quietly, placing her hand on Adrian's arm. Marcus continued. "Petrov approached me 6 months ago. Said he was forming a coalition. People who remembered what you used to be and wanted to restore that. People who thought removing your weakness would return you to form. By killing my wife," Adrian's voice could have cut glass. "By giving you a reason to be the monster again." Marcus leaned forward as much as his restraints allowed. "They thought if Lena died, you'd go on a rampage, destroy everyone involved, remind the whole underworld why they should fear you. Then, with your reputation restored and your heart safely dead again, the coalition would approach you, offer alliance." "That's insane," Lena breathed. "That's our world." Marcus looked at her. "You think you understand it? You think loving Adrian makes you part of this? You're a liability, a weakness everyone will try to exploit, and eventually, probably soon, someone will succeed. They'll kill you just to hurt him, and when that happens, Adrian will either die trying to avenge you or become something so dark even he won't recognize himself. Or, Adrian said quietly, deadly, I'll kill everyone who threatens her until people learn not to try." Marcus shook his head. You can't kill everyone. There's always another ambitious bastard waiting for his chance. Then I'll enjoy the job security. Adrian pulled out his gun, checking the magazine with casual precision. You still haven't told me who else is involved. Because that information is the only thing keeping me alive right now. You think I won't torture it out of you? I think you're tired of torture. I think you're tired of blood and violence and living like an animal. Marcus's eyes flicked to Lena. I think she's changing you into someone who wants out, and that's going to get you both killed. The room fell silent. Adrian holstered his gun and sat down across from Marcus. When he spoke, his voice was calm, controlled, more terrifying than any rage could be. You're right, he said. She is changing me. I want things now I never wanted before. A future. A life. Maybe even a way out of this eventually. He leaned forward. But here's what you don't understand, Marcus. That doesn't make me weak. It makes me more dangerous, because now I have something to protect. Something worth being the monster for. So when I tell you that I'll kill anyone who threatens her, I don't mean it as a threat. I mean it as a promise. He stood, walking around the table to stand behind Marcus's chair. Now, Adrian continued, his hand resting almost gently on Marcus's injured shoulder, you're going to tell me every name in this coalition, every person who thought it was a good idea to target my wife, and then you're going to help me destroy them all. His fingers tightened, pressing into the burns. Marcus screamed. Lena watched, forcing herself not to look away. This was the man she loved. This capacity for cruelty, this willingness to hurt, to break, to destroy anyone who threatened what was his. She should have been horrified, but all she felt was safe. 20 minutes later, Marcus had given up 12 names, members of rival organizations, corrupt officials, even 2 of Adrian's own people who joined the coalition. Adrian recorded everything, his phone capturing every word, every confession. When it was done, Marcus slumped in his chair, broken and bleeding. What now? He asked. You kill me? Adrian considered him for a long moment. No, death would be too easy. Instead, you're going to disappear. My people will relocate you somewhere remote. You'll live, but you'll live knowing that everything you built, every connection you had, every piece of power you accumulated, it's all gone. You're nobody now, Marcus. Just another ghost. That's worse than death. I know. Adrian took Lena's hand. Let's go. They left Marcus in that concrete room, his future decided, his fate sealed. In the elevator back to the penthouse, Lena leaned against Adrian's chest, processing everything she'd witnessed. Are you okay? He asked quietly. I don't know. Honest. I watched you torture information out of him, and I didn't feel anything. Shouldn't I feel something? You feel what you feel. Adrian kissed the top of her head. There's no right way to react to this world. Will it always be like this? Threats and betrayals and violence? Probably. He sighed. I won't lie to you, Lena. This is my life. Our life now. It won't suddenly become safe or normal. I know. She looked up at him. And I'm still choosing it. Choosing you. The elevator opened to the penthouse. Dawn was breaking over the city, painting everything in shades of gold and pink. They stood at the windows watching the sunrise, 2 people who'd found each other in darkness and somehow created light. I want to see them, Lena said suddenly. See who? The people from the list. The ones who wanted me dead. She turned to face him. I want to look them in the eye. I want them to see that I'm not afraid. That they failed. Adrian studied her carefully. You're sure? Yes. A slow smile spread across his face, proud and possessive and absolutely ruthless. Then, let's introduce you properly to my world, Mrs. Volkov, he said. Let's show them exactly who you are. And in that moment, watching the sunrise paint the city in blood and gold, Lena understood what she'd truly become. Not a victim, not a weakness, but a queen standing beside her king, ready to defend their empire with everything she had. The war was just beginning, and this time she was ready to fight. The city looked different through the tinted windows of Adrian's armored sedan. Lena had ridden through these streets 100 times as a ghost, invisible and insignificant. Now, sitting beside Adrian as he made calls in rapid-fire Russian, she felt the weight of visibility. People would look at her now, judge her, try to use her, let them try. Adrian ended his call and turned to her. First stop is Dmitry Volkov. No relation despite the name. He runs the Eastern Port operations and was on Marcus's list. His hand found hers. He's old school, traditional. He won't like that I'm bringing you. Good, Lena said. Let him be uncomfortable. Adrian's smile was sharp with approval. Remember what we discussed. You don't speak unless spoken to directly. You don't show weakness, and you stay close to me at all times. I'm not afraid of these people, Adrian. You should be. That's what keeps you alive. He squeezed her hand. But I need them to see you're not afraid. It's a fine line. The car pulled up to a restaurant in Little Russia, the kind of place tourists never found. Adrian's men swept the area before allowing them to exit. Inside, the air was thick with cigarette smoke and the smell of vodka. Conversations died as they entered. Dmitry sat at a corner table, a bear of a man with silver hair and cold eyes. 2 bodyguards flanked him, hands visible on the table. A show of non-aggression, though everyone could see the guns under their jackets. Adrian, Dmitry said in heavily accented English. You bring your pet to business meeting? Lena felt Adrian tense, but she spoke before he could. I'm his wife, not his pet. Learn the difference. Dmitry's eyebrows shot up. Then he laughed, a booming sound that filled the room. She has teeth. Good. You need woman with spine in this life. Adrian guided Lena to a chair before sitting beside her, positioning himself between her and Dmitry's men. A bottle of vodka appeared, 3 glasses poured. To what do I owe this honor? Dmitry asked, though his eyes said he already knew. Marcus Chen named you, Adrian said flatly. Said you were part of the coalition planning to kill my wife. The temperature in the room dropped 20 degrees. Dmitry's men tensed, hands moving toward weapons. Adrian's men positioned by the exits mirrored the movement. Dmitry held up a hand, stopping the escalation. Marcus is liar. Marcus is very motivated to tell the truth right now. Then he lies about me specifically. Dmitry leaned forward. Yes, I was approached. Petrov came to me 2 months ago with his plan. I listened because it is smart to know what enemies are planning, but I told him no. Why should I believe you? Because I'm still alive. Dmitry drained his vodka. If I had said yes, you think I would be sitting here so calmly? No. I would have disappeared or increased security tenfold. Instead, I sit here with only my regular men, drinking mediocre vodka, waiting for you to come ask your questions. Adrian studied him in silence. Lena watched both men, reading the undercurrents. Dmitry wasn't lying. His body language was too relaxed, his confidence too genuine. He's telling the truth, Lena said quietly. Both men looked at her. Adrian's expression was carefully neutral. How do you know? Body language, micro-expressions. I worked retail for years dealing with shoplifters and con artists. She met Dmitry's eyes. If he was guilty, he'd be trying harder to convince you. Guilty people over-explain. He's just stating facts and letting you decide. Dmitry laughed again. Smart woman. Beautiful and smart. You chose well, Adrian. I know. Adrian's hand found Lena's under the table. Marcus gave me 12 names, Dmitry. If you weren't involved, then who was? What followed was an hour of careful negotiation. Dmitry confirmed some names, denied others, added 3 more that Marcus had failed to mention. He drew diagrams on napkins, explaining alliances and enmities, who was ambitious enough to try and who was smart enough to decline. By the end, they had a clearer picture of the conspiracy. 8 people definitively involved, 4 more possibles. And everyone agreed that removing them needed to be surgical, strategic, and absolute. You come to family dinner next week, Dmitry announced as they prepared to leave. You and your fierce wife. My Katya will want to meet her. We'll be there, Adrian said, which surprised Lena. She'd assumed he kept his personal life separate from business. In the car afterward, she asked about it. Dmitry's invitation is more than social, Adrian explained. It's a public declaration of support. If he welcomes you to his family table, others will see it. Will understand that you're not just my weakness, you're my partner. Is that what I am? Your partner? What else would you be? He pulled her close. You think I'd let just anyone sit in on those meetings? Speak to men like Dmitry? That was a test, Lena, and you passed. Pride warmed her chest. What's next? Nikolai Sokolov, he runs gambling operations on the Strip. Marcus fingered him as one of the masterminds. Adrian's expression darkened. Nikolai is different from Dmitri. He's young, ambitious, and stupid enough to think he can outmaneuver me. Dangerous combination. Very. They drove to a casino on the edge of downtown, all neon and desperate glamour. Adrian's men created a corridor through the crowds to the VIP elevators. The top floor was quieter, carpeted in plush red, lined with private rooms where high-stakes games separated fools from their money. Nikolai's office was at the end, glass walls overlooking the casino floor, decorated in chrome and leather. The man himself was young, maybe 35, with styled dark hair and a suit that cost more than most cars. Adrian Volkov, Nikolai said with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. And the famous Lena. I've heard so much about you. I'm sure you have, Lena replied. Something about this man made her skin crawl. Sit, please. Nikolai gestured to chairs facing his desk. Can I offer you anything? Champagne? Whiskey? Information, Adrian said coldly, about your involvement with Marcus Chen and Mikhail Petrov. Nikolai's smile never wavered. I don't know what you're talking about. Marcus said you were at 3 separate planning meetings, that you offered to help coordinate the attack on the island. Adrian leaned forward. He gave me dates, times, locations. Should I continue? Marcus is a desperate man trying to reduce his punishment. Nikolai spread his hands. He'll say anything. Adrian's phone hit the desk, playing audio. Marcus's voice filled the room. Nikolai was the most enthusiastic. He said killing the girl would be doing you a favor, that you'd thank us eventually. Nikolai's smile finally faded. That proves nothing. It proves you're a traitor. Adrian stood slowly. And traitors die. 2 things happened simultaneously. Adrian's men moved to block the exits, and Nikolai pressed a button under his desk. Hidden panels in the walls slid open, revealing armed men. I don't think so, Nikolai said. You see, I planned for this possibility. You're good, Adrian, but you're predictable. Of course you'd come here. Of course you'd confront me. He stood, walking around his desk. The difference is, I'm ready. Lena's heart hammered. They were outnumbered 3-1. The office was a kill box. You think this ends well for you? Adrian asked, his voice deadly calm. I think you leave here alive only because I allow it. Nikolai stopped in front of Lena, looking down at her. And the price of your life is hers. Give me the girl, walk away, and we'll call it even. No deal. Then we all die here. Nikolai shrugged. Your choice. Lena watched Adrian calculate odds, saw the tension in his jaw as he realized they'd walked into a trap. Nikolai had played this perfectly. She stood. Lena, sit down, Adrian growled. No. She stepped toward Nikolai. You want me? You can have me. Lena, but first, I want to know why. She looked up at Nikolai. Why do you care so much about killing me? What did I ever do to you? Nikolai smiled. You made him weak, the great Adrian Volkov, reduced to playing house with a girl who knows nothing about our world. It's pathetic. Is it? Lena took another step. Or are you jealous? That hit home. Nikolai's expression flickered. That's it, isn't it? Lena continued, her voice soft but clear. You've spent your whole life building power, taking risks, proving yourself. And Adrian still has more than you, is more than you. So when he found something that makes him happy, you couldn't stand it. Shut up. Because if Adrian can have both, power and love, empire and happiness, then what does that make you? What's your excuse for being alone? I said shut up. Nikolai grabbed her arm, fingers digging in hard enough to bruise. Adrian moved, but Nikolai's men raised their weapons. Everyone froze. Let her go, Adrian said, his voice like gravel. No, I don't think I will. Nikolai pulled Lena closer, his other hand sliding a knife from his jacket. I think I'll do what Petrov couldn't, what Marcus failed to do. I'll cut out your heart right in front of you. He pressed the blade to Lena's throat. She'd been terrified before, when Petrov's men grabbed her, when the warehouse exploded. But this was different. This was cold steel against her skin, one wrong move from death. But she'd also learned something in these past weeks. Fear could be a weapon too. Do it, she whispered. Nikolai blinked. What? Do it. Kill me. Lena met Adrian's eyes across the room. But know that the second I'm dead, Adrian will destroy everything you've ever built, everyone you've ever loved. He'll burn your world to ash and scatter your remains where no one will ever find them. Lena, stop, Adrian said, but she could see the calculation in his eyes. He understood what she was doing. You think killing me makes you powerful? Lena continued, her voice growing stronger despite the knife. It makes you the stupidest man alive. Because the only thing keeping Adrian civilized, the only thing keeping him from being the monster everyone fears, is me. Kill me, and you unleash something you can't control. She felt Nikolai's hand tremble slightly. He'll kill you slowly, she whispered. He'll make it last for days. And when he's finally done, when you're begging for death, he'll keep you alive just a little longer, because that's who he is when there's nothing left to lose. The knife pressed harder. A trickle of blood ran down her neck. Then Nikolai laughed. You're bluffing. Am I? Lena smiled. Ask Marcus. Ask him what Adrian did for just betraying him. Now imagine what he'll do for murder. The room was silent except for the muffled sounds of the casino below. Everyone waited. Adrian spoke, his voice empty of all emotion. She's not bluffing. Kill her, and I'll spend the rest of my life making you suffer. I'll kill everyone you've ever cared about. I'll destroy your businesses piece by piece. I'll make you watch as everything you built crumbles. And then, only then, will I let you die. The knife shook against Lena's throat. But, Adrian continued, let her go right now, and I'll give you a choice. Leave the city, take whatever money you have, and disappear. I'll even give you a 24-hour head start before I tell the others you were involved. Maybe you'll survive long enough to find somewhere safe. That's not much of a choice, Nikolai said. It's more than you deserve. Adrian's eyes were dead. Decide. Now. Lena held her breath. Everything balanced on this moment. Whether Nikolai was smart enough to take the deal, whether his pride would let him walk away, whether he understood just how serious Adrian was. The knife lowered. Nikolai shoved Lena toward Adrian, who caught her, immediately checking the cut on her neck. It was shallow, barely more than a scratch. 24 hours, Nikolai said bitterly. Starting now. Starting now, Adrian confirmed. They left the office in tense silence, Nikolai's men partying to let them pass. No one spoke until they were in the elevator, doors closed, descending. Then Adrian pulled Lena into his arms so tightly she could barely breathe. Don't ever do that again, he said against her hair. Don't ever use yourself as bait. It worked, didn't it? You could have died. So could you. That's the point. Lena pulled back to look at him. We protect each other. That's how this works. Adrian cupped her face, his thumb gentle over the cut on her neck. You're going to give me a heart attack. Good. Keeps you on your toes. He kissed her, hard and desperate, not caring that his men could see through the elevator's glass walls. When he finally pulled back, his eyes were fierce. You were brilliant up there, he said. Terrifying and brilliant. I learned from the best. The elevator opened to the casino floor. Adrian kept her close as they walked through the crowds, his arm around her waist, possessive and protective. Outside, the night air was cool after the stale casino atmosphere. Adrian's second-in-command, Alexei, was waiting by the car. Boss, we have a problem, Alexei said immediately. What kind of problem? 2 of the names from the list, Thomas Reeves and Sarah Chen. They've gone to ground. Disappeared in the last 6 hours. Adrian cursed in Russian. They know we're coming. Someone's warning them, Lena said. Someone who knew about Marcus's confession. The 3 of them looked at each other, the same realization hitting simultaneously. There was still a leak. Someone close enough to know what Marcus had revealed, but not close enough to be in that interrogation room. How many people knew we had Marcus? Adrian demanded. 12. Your inner circle only. Alexei pulled out his phone, pulling up a list. I can account for all of them except who? Your lawyer, David Stern. He hasn't checked in for his regular report. Adrian's expression went cold. Find him. Now. Already on it. We tracked his phone to a warehouse in the industrial district. Alexei hesitated. Boss, it could be another trap. Then we'll be ready for it. Adrian opened the car door for Lena. But this ends tonight. I'm tired of playing defense. They drove across the city, picking up more men at various checkpoints until they had a convoy of 4 vehicles, 20 armed soldiers loyal to Adrian. The warehouse district was dark and abandoned, most buildings empty shells waiting for demolition. David Stern's phone signal came from a warehouse at the end of a dead-end street. Adrian had his men surround the building while he, Lena, and Alexei approached the main entrance. "This feels wrong," Alexei muttered. "Too easy." Agreed. Adrian checked his weapon. "Lena, you stay with you." "I know." She'd grabbed a gun from the car, checked the magazine like Adrian had taught her. "I'm not sitting in the car while you walk into another ambush." "Stubborn woman. You married me. Best mistake I ever made." They entered through a side door, moving quietly through darkness. The warehouse was massive, full of old machinery and shipping containers. Perfect place for an ambush. Adrian hand-signaled for his men to spread out, clearing the space methodically. They found David Stern in the center of the warehouse, tied to a chair, beaten unconscious. "It's a trap," Alexei said, but Adrian was already moving toward his lawyer. Lena saw it first, the wire running from Stern's chair to a stack of crates in the corner. "Adrian, stop!" He froze mid-step. The lights blazed on, flooding the warehouse with harsh white light. Armed figures appeared on the catwalks above, at least 30 of them, surrounding Adrian's men. A woman's voice echoed through the space. "Hello, Adrian." Sarah Chen stepped into view on the main catwalk. Mid-40s, elegant in a business suit, Marcus's older sister and head of their family's operations. She held a detonator. "Sarah," Adrian said calmly, "I should have known you'd be involved. My brother was a fool, but he was still my brother." Her eyes were hard. "You tortured him, destroyed him. Did you really think I'd let that go?" "He tried to kill my wife. He tried to save you from yourself." Sarah's finger hovered over the detonator button. "But you're too far gone, too twisted up in this pathetic love story to see clearly anymore." Adrian's men aimed at Sarah, but she just laughed. "Shoot me, and this detonator triggers. Everyone in this building dies." "Including you," Lena called out. "I'm willing to make that sacrifice." Sarah's gaze fixed on Lena. "You should have stayed in your cage, little bird. Should have accepted your role as Adrian's pretty pet. Instead, you had to try to be something more. Had to make him care about you." "Is that what this is about?" Lena stepped forward despite Adrian trying to hold her back. "You're angry because someone like me made someone like him fall in love?" "I'm angry because you've made him weak." Sarah's composure cracked. "The Adrian Volkov I knew would have burned this city to the ground by now, would have killed Marcus quickly and moved on. But you've made him hesitate, made him question, made him human." "And that terrifies you, see," Lena said, understanding flooding through her. "Because if Adrian can be human, if he can love someone and still be powerful, then what's your excuse? What's your justification for being so alone?" Sarah's hand tightened on the detonator. "Shut up." "How many people have you pushed away to get where you are?" Lena continued, moving closer. Adrian shadowed her, positioned to shield her. "How many relationships have you sacrificed for power? And now you see Adrian has both. And it makes you realize you gave up everything for nothing." "I said shut up." "You want to kill me because I represent everything you'll never have," Lena said softly. "Not because I make him weak, but because I make him whole. And you'll never be whole, will you, Sarah? You'll always be empty." The warehouse was silent. Sarah's finger trembled on the trigger. Then she smiled. "You're right. I'll never be whole. I'll never be happy. I'll never be anything but this." She raised the detonator. "But neither will you." Everything happened at once. Adrian tackled Lena to the ground as Sarah pressed the button. Gunfire erupted from every direction. The charges around David Stern exploded, sending a shockwave through the building. But the explosion was smaller than it should have been. Controlled. Directional. Adrian's men had disarmed most of the charges. Through the smoke and chaos, Lena saw Sarah's face, the moment she realized her trap had failed, that she'd sacrificed everything for revenge that wouldn't even work. Then Adrian's sniper took the shot. Sarah fell from the catwalk, dead before she hit the ground. The firefight lasted less than 3 minutes. Adrian's men were better trained, better positioned, and fighting for something more than money. When the smoke cleared, all of Sarah's forces were dead or subdued. David Stern was alive, barely. Medics rushed to stabilize him while Adrian stood over Sarah's body, his expression unreadable. "Is it over?" Lena asked, standing beside him. "For now." He pulled her close, not caring about the blood and gunpowder staining their clothes. There will always be someone. Always another ambitious fool who thinks they can take what's mine. But after tonight, they'll think twice. Alexei approached, phone in hand. "Boss, Thomas Reeves just called, says he wants to negotiate surrender. Tell him I'll accept nothing less than complete cooperation." Adrian turned away from Sarah's body. "And Alexei, let everyone know what happened here tonight. Let them see what happens when you threaten what's mine." They left the warehouse as police sirens wailed in the distance. Adrian's people would handle the authorities, spin the story into something acceptable. By morning, it would be just another gang war, barely worth a mention in the news. In the car, Lena finally let herself shake. The adrenaline drained away, leaving her exhausted and overwhelmed. "Hey," Adrian said softly, pulling her into his lap. "You're okay. We're okay. I thought she was going to blow us all up." "She tried. You stopped her." "How did I stop her?" "You got in her head, made her angry enough to make mistakes." He kissed her temple. "You're a natural at this." "I don't want to be natural at this." Lena's voice broke. "I don't want to be good at psychological warfare and life or death situations. I just want..." "What? What do you want?" "You. Just you, without all the death and danger." Adrian held her tighter. "I know, but this is the package deal, me and my world. I wish I could give you something different." "I know," Lena wiped her eyes. "And I'm still choosing it. Choosing you. I just need a minute to fall apart first. Take all the time you need." They drove through the city as dawn broke, painting everything in shades of gold and pink. By the time they reached the penthouse, Lena had pulled herself together, though Adrian kept her close as they rode the elevator up. Inside, he ran her a bath, helped her undress, cleaned the cut on her neck that had reopened during the fight. His hands were gentle, reverent, treating her like something precious. "I'm not going to break," she said. "I know. But let me take care of you anyway." She sank into the hot water while Adrian sat on the floor beside the tub, his hand trailing lazy patterns on her shoulder. "Thomas Reeves is the last one," he said quietly. "After him, everyone involved in the conspiracy is dead or handled. What happens then? Then we rebuild. Make it clear to everyone that you're not a weakness to exploit. You're a red line never to be crossed." He met her eyes. "And then, if you still want to, we get married again. Properly this time." Lena caught his hand, bringing it to her lips. "I still want to. Even after tonight? After everything you've seen?" "Especially after tonight." She smiled tiredly. "Because you were right on the island. This is your world, our world now. And I'd rather face it with you than be safe without you." Adrian leaned in to kiss her, soft and sweet and full of promises. When he pulled back, his eyes were bright with something that might have been tears. "I love you," he said, "more than power, more than empire, more than my own life." "I know," Lena touched his face. "I love you too, even when you're being an idiot and walking into traps." He laughed, the sound surprised and genuine. "We're a disaster. We're perfect." They stayed like that until the water went cold, just holding each other, finding peace in the quiet moments between wars. Outside, the city woke to another day, unaware of the violence that had shaped its night, unaware that a queen had been forged in fire, standing beside her king, ready to defend what they'd built together. The conspiracy was over, the threats neutralized, but Lena knew this was just the beginning. There would always be challenges, always be dangers, always be people who saw her as Adrian's weakness instead of his strength. Let them come. She was ready now. Ready to stand beside him in the darkness, ready to fight for what was theirs. Ready to prove that love wasn't a liability in this world, it was the most dangerous weapon of all, and she wielded it like a blade. Thomas Reeves surrendered 3 days later in the lobby of Adrian's downtown headquarters, walking in alone with his hands raised and a white envelope containing every piece of evidence against the remaining conspirators. He knelt in front of Adrian's desk like a penitent, his expensive suit rumpled, his face showing the strain of 72 hours running scared. Lena watched from her position by the window, learning to read the power dynamics of Adrian's world. Thomas didn't look at her once, a tell that revealed exactly how much he feared what she represented. "Please," Thomas said, his voice breaking. "I have a family, 2 daughters. I made a mistake, but they're innocent." Adrian didn't respond immediately. He read through the documents Thomas had provided with methodical precision, occasionally making notes. The silence stretched until Thomas was visibly sweating. Finally, Adrian looked up. "Your daughters are 8 and 10. "Yes." Hope flickered in Thomas's eyes. "They go to St. Mary's Academy, honor students. The youngest wants to be a veterinarian." The hope died. Thomas understood what Adrian was really saying. "I know where they are. I know everything about them." "I'll do anything," Thomas whispered. "Anything you want. Just don't hurt them." "I don't hurt children," Adrian said coldly. "But I do remember debts. You'll work for me now. Everything you earn, everything you build, belongs to me until I decide otherwise. Your daughters will grow up never knowing their father betrayed me, but you'll know, every day for the rest of your life, you'll remember that you owe me everything." Thomas nodded frantically. "Yes, thank you. Thank you. Get out!" After Thomas fled, Adrian turned to Lena. "What did you think?" She'd been expecting this. Adrian had started asking her opinion after every meeting, teaching her to analyze people and situations the way he did. "He's broken," she said. "He'll be loyal now because he's too scared to be anything else. But watch his wife. She doesn't know about the conspiracy yet. And when she finds out what he risked, she might become a problem." Adrian smiled, pride evident in his expression. "Exactly what I thought. You're learning fast. I have a good teacher." He crossed to her, pulling her into his arms. Out the window, the city sprawled beneath them, every light representing someone under Adrian's influence in some way. It should have felt overwhelming. Instead, it felt like standing on top of the world. "The threats are handled," Adrian said quietly. "Everyone who wanted you dead is dead or neutralized. We're safe now." "For how long?" "Long enough." He tilted her chin up. "Long enough to get married. Really married, the way I promised you." Lena's heart skipped. "When?" "Whenever you want. Tomorrow. Next month. A year from now." His thumb brushed her lower lip. "You choose everything this time. The date, the venue, the dress. Make it exactly what you want." She thought about the first wedding. Sterile registry office, ugly dress, her father's desperate gratitude making her sick. She thought about what she'd dreamed of as a girl before reality crushed those dreams into dust. "I want it small," she said. "Just people who actually matter. No business connections, no strategic alliances. Just us and the people we actually care about." "Done." "Who do you want there?" Lena realized she didn't have a good answer. Her mother was dead. Her father had sold her and didn't deserve to witness her happiness. She had no siblings, no close friends left after years of working multiple jobs just to survive. Adrian saw her struggle. "My people are your people now," he said gently. "Alexei would be honored to walk you down the aisle if you'd let him. Dmitri and Katya would come. Even some of the men who protected you, they've adopted you as their own." Tears pricked her eyes. "I never expected to have a family again." "You have one now, whether you want it or not." He kissed her forehead. "We take care of our own. And you're ours now, Lena, completely." The wedding planning became a welcome distraction from the violence of the past weeks. Katya Volkov, Dmitri's wife, took Lena shopping for dresses with an enthusiasm that was both touching and overwhelming. The older woman had raised 5 sons in the underworld and treated Lena like the daughter she'd never had. "This one," Katya declared, pulling a dress from the rack. "Try this one." It was simpler than the others they'd looked at. Ivory silk that draped elegantly, no excessive beading or lace. Lena stepped into the fitting room and slipped it on. When she emerged, Katya's eyes filled with tears. "Beautiful. You look like bride, not like costume." Lena studied herself in the mirror. The dress was perfect, elegant without being fussy, sophisticated without trying too hard. She looked like herself, just more. "Adrian will forget how to breathe," Katya said with satisfaction. They bought the dress along with simple jewelry, pearl earrings that had belonged to Katya's mother, offered with such genuine affection that Lena couldn't refuse. Afterward, they had lunch at a small Russian cafe where Katya told stories about Dmitri's courtship. "He was terrible romantic," Katya said, laughing. "Brought me flowers every day for a month. My mother thought he was too dangerous. She was right, but I married him anyway." "Do you regret it?" Lena asked. "The danger, the violence, all of it." Katya considered this seriously. "Sometimes. When sons were young, I worried constantly. Every phone call could be news that Dmitri was dead. Every knock on door could be police or enemies." She paused. "But I loved him. Love him still. And love makes the fear worth it. Even when it's terrifying. Especially then." Katya reached across the table to squeeze Lena's hand. "You think you are only one who is scared? Adrian is terrified too, of losing you, of not being good enough, of his world destroying what you have together. But he loves you enough to be brave anyway. You do same." Lena blinked back tears. "Thank you." "No thanks needed. You are family now." Katya's smile was fierce. "And we protect family." The wedding was set for 2 weeks later to be held at Adrian's estate in the hills overlooking the city. Lena had never been there. Adrian kept it completely separate from his business operations, a true sanctuary. When he drove her up the winding road to show her the venue, she understood why. The estate was stunning. Modern architecture blending seamlessly with natural landscape, all clean lines and floor-to-ceiling windows framing views of the city below. Gardens sprawled across the grounds, carefully maintained but wild enough to feel organic. "I bought this place 5 years ago," Adrian said as they walked through the gardens. "Told myself it was an investment, but really, I think I was building a home for a future I didn't believe I'd ever have. And now? Now I have you." He pulled her close. "Now it's actually a home." They chose a spot overlooking the city for the ceremony, a natural stone terrace surrounded by flowering trees, simple wooden chairs for the handful of guests, an arch woven with white roses. "It's perfect," Lena breathed. Adrian's phone buzzed. He glanced at it and his expression darkened. "I need to take this." He stepped away, and Lena watched his posture shift as he listened to whoever was calling. When he returned, his face was carefully neutral. "What's wrong?" she asked. "Your father wants to come to the wedding." Ice flooded her veins. "What?" "He called Alexei, asking how to reach me. Said he heard we were getting married again and wants to be there." Adrian's jaw clenched. "I told Alexei to tell him to go to hell, but I wanted you to know." Lena turned away, staring out at the city. She hadn't thought about Michael Hart in weeks, hadn't wanted to. The man who'd raised her had died years ago, replaced by a desperate stranger who gambled away everything, including his daughter. "He sold me," she said quietly. "He looked at me and saw a way to erase his debts, and he didn't hesitate." "I know." "And now he wants to what? Play proud father? Pretend he didn't trade me like livestock?" Adrian moved behind her, hands gentle on her shoulders. "What do you want to do?" "I want—" Lena stopped, surprised by the answer forming in her mind. "I want to see him. One last time." "Are you sure?" "No, but I need to." She turned to face Adrian. "I need to look him in the eye and tell him exactly what he did, what he cost me, and then I need to close that door forever." Adrian studied her face. "Okay, I'll arrange it. But I'm there with you, non-negotiable." "I wouldn't have it any other way." They met Michael Hart 2 days later in a neutral location, a cafe Adrian's people had cleared of other customers. Lena's father looked older than she remembered, worn down by whatever he'd been doing since selling her. He stood when they entered, his smile nervous. "Lena, sweetheart, you look— Don't." Her voice cut like glass. "Don't call me sweetheart. Don't pretend we're family. We're not anymore." Michael's smile faltered. "I know you're angry." "Angry?" Lena laughed bitterly. "I'm not angry. Anger would mean I still care enough to feel something. I'm just done. Please, let me explain." "Explain what? How you looked at your only daughter and saw dollar signs? How you sold me to pay for your gambling addiction?" She stepped closer. "Do you have any idea what you did? What you put me through?" "I didn't have a choice," Michael said desperately. "They were going to kill me." "So you let them take me instead." Lena's voice shook. You chose your life over mine, your comfort over my freedom, and you didn't even have the decency to feel guilty about it. Michael's face crumpled. I did feel guilty. I do. Every day, not guilty enough to say no, not guilty enough to find another way. She turned to Adrian. Tell him what you offered before the marriage. Adrian spoke coldly. I told your father I'd erase his debts if he gave me information on my competitors. He could have walked away clean without sacrificing his daughter. He chose the easier path. The color drained from Michael's face. I didn't know. Because you didn't ask, Lena said. You heard marry my daughter and jumped at it because it was simpler than actually working to fix your problems. She pulled out an envelope from her purse. This is everything you're getting from me. Ever. Michael opened it with shaking hands. Inside was a check. Enough to live modestly for several years if he was careful. That's more than you deserve, Lena continued. But I won't have it said that I left my father destitute. Take the money. Disappear. Get help for your addiction. Build a life somewhere else. Her voice went hard. But you're not welcome at my wedding. You're not welcome in my life. And if I ever hear that you're using my name to try to get something from Adrian's people, I'll make sure you regret it. Lena, please. We're done here. She turned to leave, then paused. I loved you once. I would have done anything for you. But you killed that love when you sold me. Remember that when you're alone with your choices. She walked out without looking back. Adrian followed, his hand finding hers as soon as they were outside. Are you okay? He asked. I will be. And surprisingly, she meant it. Seeing her father, saying everything she needed to say, it felt like excising a wound. Painful, but necessary. In the car, Adrian pulled her close. I'm proud of you. For what? For being strong enough to face him, for knowing your worth. He kissed her temple. You're remarkable, Lena Hart. Lena Volkov, she corrected. I kept your name even after the first wedding. I just never felt like it was really mine until now. It's yours. Everything I have is yours. His arms tightened, including my heart, for whatever that's worth. It's worth everything. The final week before the wedding passed in a blur of final preparations. Lena worked with the estate staff to arrange flowers, choose music, plan the small reception dinner. She wrote her vows over and over, trying to capture everything she felt in words that wouldn't sound ridiculous when spoken aloud. The night before the wedding, Adrian honored tradition by staying at a hotel downtown, leaving Lena alone at the estate. She stood on the terrace where tomorrow they'd exchange vows, watching the city lights twinkle below. Couldn't sleep either? Lena turned to find Katya approaching with 2 glasses of wine. Too much on my mind, Lena admitted, accepting a glass. Is normal. I didn't sleep night before my wedding either. Katya settled into a chair. Was too busy being terrified. Of what? Of everything. Of making a mistake, of not being strong enough for the life I was choosing, of loving someone too much. She smiled. But when I saw Dmitri at altar, all fear disappeared. I knew I was exactly where I was supposed to be. What if I'm not strong enough? The question came out small. What if Adrian's world breaks me? Then you rebuild. Katya's voice was firm. You think you are first woman to love dangerous man? You think you are only one who worries about surviving this life? She leaned forward. Let me tell you a secret. You are already stronger than you know. You survived being sold by your father. You survived assassination attempts. You stood up to men who wanted you dead and made them afraid of you instead. You don't need to be stronger, Lena. You just need to remember what you already are. Lena felt tears slip down her cheeks. Thank you. No tears tonight. Save for tomorrow when you see Adrian's face. Katya stood, pulling Lena into a warm embrace. Get some sleep. Tomorrow you become bride. Really become part of this family. And we are so happy to have you. After Katya left, Lena stayed on the terrace a while longer, thinking about everything that had brought her to this moment. A year ago, she'd been trapped in her father's debts, working herself to exhaustion with no hope for the future. She'd thought marriage to Adrian Volkov would be a prison sentence. Instead, it had become her salvation. She'd found strength she didn't know she had, found family in the most unlikely places, found love in the arms of a man who'd bought her like property but chose to see her as an equal. Tomorrow, she'd stand beside him and choose him freely. Not because she had to, not because of debts or obligations, but because she wanted to. Because he was hers and she was his, and together they were building something real from the ashes of violence and pain. Lena finished her wine and went inside to sleep, her heart lighter than it had been in months. The wedding day dawned clear and perfect, the sky a brilliant blue that seemed impossible for the city. Lena woke early, too excited to sleep, and spent the morning getting ready with Katya's help. The older woman styled her hair in loose waves, applied minimal makeup that enhanced rather than masked, helped her into the ivory dress. When Lena looked in the mirror, she barely recognized herself. Not because she looked different, but because she looked happy, genuinely, radiantly happy. Beautiful, Katya declared. Now, one more thing. She produced a small box containing a delicate bracelet, platinum with tiny diamonds. This was Dimitri's mother's, Katya said. She wore it at her wedding, I wore it at mine, and now you wear it at yours. Is tradition in our family? Lena's throat tightened. I can't. It's too precious. You are family. This is yours now. Katya fastened it around Lena's wrist. There, perfect. A knock at the door announced Alexei, looking uncomfortable in his formal suit but smiling warmly. Ready? He asked. Lena took a deep breath. Ready. Alexei offered his arm, and she took it gratefully. They descended the stairs together, walked through the gardens toward the terrace. Lena could hear soft music playing, could see the small gathering of people who mattered, standing and turning to watch her approach. But she only had eyes for Adrian. He stood at the arch in a perfectly tailored suit, his expression arrested as he watched her walk toward him. Lena had never seen him look vulnerable before, but in that moment, with the afternoon sun painting everything golden, he looked almost undone. When she reached him, Alexei placed her hand in Adrian's with a murmured blessing in Russian. Then he stepped back, and it was just the two of them standing before the officiant while the city sprawled below and witnesses watched from nearby chairs. The ceremony was simple. The officiant spoke briefly about commitment and choice. Then it was time for vows. Adrian went first, his voice steady despite the emotion in his eyes. Lena, when I first saw you, I thought I wanted to possess you, to own something beautiful in a world of ugliness. I was wrong. You can't possess wildfire. You can't own the ocean. You can only stand in awe of it and hope it doesn't destroy you. He paused, gathering himself. You've changed me in ways I never thought possible. You've made me want to be better, do better, fight harder for something beyond just survival. I can't promise you safety. My world is too dangerous for that. But I can promise you this. I will fight for you with everything I have. I will protect you with my last breath. I will love you until the day I die and possibly beyond. You are my heart, Lena. And I'm honored that you've chosen to give me yours. Lena's hands shook as she began her own vows. Adrian, you bought me thinking I was merchandise, something to be owned and controlled. But you gave me something my own father never did. You gave me a choice. Every day since we came back from the island, you've asked me to choose you freely. And every day, I do. I choose your darkness and your light. I choose your violence and your tenderness. I choose the empire you've built and the man you are beneath it all. She squeezed his hands. I choose you, Adrian Volkov, not because I have to, but because I can't imagine choosing anyone else. You're my home, my family, my future, and I'll stand beside you through whatever comes for as long as you'll have me. Forever, Adrian said roughly. I'll have you forever. The officiant smiled. Then by the power vested in me, I now pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss your bride. Adrian pulled her close, and this kiss was different from all the others. This was a promise, a beginning, a declaration of war against anyone who would try to tear them apart. Lena kissed him back with everything she had, pouring all her love and hope and determination into the connection. When they finally broke apart, their small gathering erupted in applause. Dimitri's booming voice called out congratulations in Russian, and Katya was openly weeping with joy. Even Alexei looked suspiciously misty-eyed. The reception was held in the estate's dining room, an intimate dinner with food that tasted like celebration. Dimitri gave a toast that was equal parts heartfelt and inappropriate, making everyone laugh. Katya followed with her own toast, blessing them in Russian and broken English. Then Adrian stood, glass in hand, and the room fell silent. "I'm not good at speeches," he began. "I'm better at threats and violence and making people afraid, but today, I want to say something different." He looked at Lena. "I want to thank my wife for seeing past the monster to the man underneath, for choosing me when she had every reason to run, for being brave enough to stand in this world beside me." He raised his glass. "To Lena, the strongest person I know, the only person who's ever made me want to be better, my wife, my queen, my everything." Everyone drank, and Lena stood to embrace him, not caring that everyone was watching. She'd spent so long making herself invisible, making herself small. No more. She was Lena Volkov now, wife to a crime lord, queen of an empire built on violence and power, and she'd never felt more like herself. As the sun set over the city and the celebration continued around them, Adrian pulled her onto the terrace for a moment of quiet. They stood wrapped in each other's arms, watching the lights come on below. "No regrets?" Adrian asked softly. "Not one." Lena looked up at him. "You? My only regret is not finding you sooner." He kissed her forehead. "But we have now. We have the rest of our lives. What happens next? Whatever we want." His arms tightened. "We've dealt with the threats, secured the empire. Now we build our life. On our terms." Lena thought about that. A future that was theirs to shape, not dictated by fear or survival or necessity, but by choice. "I want to do something," she said suddenly. "What?" "Something good. Something that matters beyond just business and territory." She pulled back to look at him. "Remember I told you I wanted to be a teacher? I want to start a foundation for kids whose parents are in debt or addiction. Give them opportunities I never had. Education, support, a way out." Adrian studied her face. "Using my money to help people. That's practically noble. Is that a yes?" "It's whatever you want it to be." He smiled. "You want to save the world? I'll write the checks. You want to build schools? I'll buy the land, whatever you need. It's yours." "Just like that?" "Just like that." He cupped her face. "You're my wife now, Lena. My equal partner in everything. Your dreams are my dreams. Your goals are my goals. We're in this together." Tears slipped down her cheeks, but she was smiling. "I love you." "I love you too." Adrian kissed her softly. "Now come back inside. Dmitri is about to tell embarrassing stories about me from when I first started out, and I need you there to protect my reputation." They returned to the party hand in hand, joining their chosen family in celebration. And as the night wore on, filled with laughter and love and the simple joy of being surrounded by people who cared, Lena realized something profound. She'd started this journey as a prisoner, a girl sold to pay her father's debts, trapped in a marriage she never chose. But somewhere along the way, she'd become free. Free to choose her own path. Free to love without fear. Free to build a future worth fighting for. She was Lena Volkov now. And she'd chosen this life, this man, this violent, beautiful world. And she wouldn't change a thing. The foundation launched 6 months after the wedding, housed in a renovated building in the heart of the city where kids who needed it most could actually reach it. Lena named it Second Chances because that's what she'd gotten and what she wanted to give others. Adrian wrote the initial check without blinking, then quietly arranged for several of his legitimate businesses to funnel profits into the organization's endowment. On opening day, Lena stood in the bright, welcoming lobby surrounded by donated books and new computers, watching families arrive for the first time. A single mother with 3 kids, all of them wearing clothes that had been washed too many times. A father whose hands shook with early withdrawal, bringing his daughter who wanted to learn piano. Teenagers who'd been failed by every system meant to protect them. She saw herself in all of them. "This is good," Adrian said quietly, standing beside her in the one suit he owned that didn't scream danger. He was trying to look approachable, though his security detail positioned throughout the building somewhat undermined the effect. "It's a start." Lena watched a little girl discover the art supplies, her face lighting up with wonder. "We're going to help a lot of kids." "You're going to help them," Adrian corrected. "This is your vision. Built with your money. Our money." He took her hand. "Everything I have is ours, remember?" The first year was harder than Lena expected. building programs, hiring staff, navigating the bureaucracy of nonprofit work, while also being married to a man whose very name made officials nervous. Some funding sources dried up when they learned about Adrian's involvement. Others doubled their contributions, either out of genuine support or because refusing Adrian Volkov seemed unwise. Lena learned not to care about the motivation as long as the kids benefited. She spent her days at the foundation, running tutoring programs and counseling sessions, fighting for kids who reminded her of herself. She came home exhausted but fulfilled, and Adrian would be waiting with dinner and questions about her day. They'd fallen into a rhythm, her light work balancing his dark business, each of them giving the other what they needed. But peace never lasted long in Adrian's world. The threat came on a Tuesday, unremarkable until Lena's assistant interrupted a tutoring session to say someone was demanding to see her. A woman who wouldn't give her name but insisted it was urgent. Lena found her in the lobby, mid-30s, expensive clothes, the kind of polished beauty that came from professional maintenance. She stood examining the foundation's mission statement on the wall with an expression Lena couldn't quite read. "I'm Lena Volkov," she said carefully. "You wanted to see me?" The woman turned, and her smile was all sharp edges. "Mrs. Volkov, how domestic. I'm Elena Kozlov. I believe you know my brother." The name hit like a punch. Kozlov. One of Adrian's oldest rivals, a Russian mobster who controlled territory on the East Coast. They'd maintained an uneasy truce for years, but Adrian had mentioned recently that Kozlov was getting ambitious, pushing boundaries. "I don't discuss my husband's business," Lena said evenly. "I'm not here about business. I'm here about you." Elena's eyes swept over Lena with obvious assessment. "I wanted to see what kind of woman could make Adrian Volkov go soft." "I haven't made him anything he didn't choose to be." "Haven't you?" Elena moved closer. "A year ago, Adrian was untouchable, ruthless. Now he's playing house and funding charities. You've neutered him." Lena felt anger flash hot and bright. "You came all this way to insult me?" "I came to deliver a message." Elena's smile widened. "My brother is tired of Adrian's recent weakness. He's planning to take advantage of it. And when he does, all of this," she gestured around the foundation, "all these children you're trying to save, they'll be collateral damage unless you leave." "Excuse me?" "Leave Adrian, divorce him, disappear. Do it publicly, make it messy, break his heart if you can." Elena's voice was casual, like discussing the weather. "Do that, and my brother will back off. Adrian can rebuild his reputation, and you can keep your little charity without worrying about it burning down with children inside." Lena's blood ran cold. "You're threatening kids to get to me? I'm giving you a choice. Save them or stay married. You can't have both." Every instinct screamed at Lena to call security, to have this woman thrown out. But she forced herself to think strategically, the way Adrian had taught her. "I'll need time to consider," she said carefully. "You have 48 hours. Elena pulled out a business card. "Call this number when you've decided. And Mrs. Volkov? Choose wisely. My brother doesn't bluff." After Elena left, Lena immediately called Adrian. He arrived 30 minutes later with Alexei and a full security team, his face carved from ice as Lena explained the threat. "Kozlov's making his move," Adrian said, pacing the office like a caged animal. "Using you to force my hand." "She threatened the kids," Lena said, her voice shaking with rage. "Children, Adrian. She threatened to burn this building with children inside." "I know." He pulled her into his arms. "I know, and I'm going to kill everyone involved. But first, we need to get you somewhere safe." "I'm not running." "Lena, no." She pulled back to meet his eyes. "I'm not leaving the foundation, and I'm definitely not leaving you. We deal with this together." Adrian's jaw clenched. "Kozlov wants a war. If we engage, people will die, maybe a lot of people." "Then we don't engage on his terms." Lena's mind was already racing. "Elena said her brother thinks you've gone soft, that I've made you weak. What if we use that?" "Use it how?" "Make him overconfident. Let him think he's right about you. Then destroy him when he overextends." She looked up at Adrian. "You've taught me about power plays and strategy. This is just another chess game." Alexei spoke from the doorway. "She's right, boss. Kozlov's pride is his weakness. If we make him think he's already won, he'll get sloppy. Adrian studied Lena's face. What are you proposing? I call Elena back. Tell her I'm considering her offer. String her along while you position your people. Lena's voice grew stronger as the plan formed. Meanwhile, we evacuate the kids and staff, make it look like I'm closing the foundation temporarily. Kozlov will think it's because I'm scared, that his threat worked. And then? Then you show him exactly how wrong he is about you being soft. Adrian's smile was predatory. I knew there was a reason I married you. The next 48 hours were controlled chaos. Lena called parents, explained there was a facility issue requiring temporary closure, arranged for the kids to continue their programs at partner organizations. Staff were given paid leave with vague promises of reopening soon. To anyone watching, it looked exactly like what Kozlov wanted to see. Lena scared and backing down. Meanwhile, Adrian mobilized his forces. He reached out to old allies, called in favors, positioned men throughout the city. Dmitry offered his full support, bringing his considerable resources to bear. Even people who normally stayed neutral began taking sides, unwilling to let Kozlov's threat against children go unanswered. Lena called Elena exactly 48 hours after their meeting. I need more time, she said, letting her voice shake slightly. This is my life we're talking about. You have 24 more hours, Elena said coldly. After that, my brother acts. I understand. Can I meet with him? Your brother? I want to hear his terms directly. There was silence on the other end. Then, you want to negotiate? I want to understand what I'm agreeing to. If I'm going to leave my husband, destroy my marriage, I need to know it will actually keep people safe. More silence. Lena could almost hear Elena calculating, trying to determine if this was genuine or a trap. I'll ask him, Elena finally said. Stay by your phone. The call came 6 hours later. Kozlov would meet with Lena the following evening at a restaurant he owned, Neutral Ground. She could bring one security guard. Any sign of Adrian or his forces, and the deal was off. It's a trap, Alexei said flatly when Lena shared the details. Of course it is. Adrian was already planning. He wants to take Lena hostage, use her as leverage against me. Classic play. So we don't let him take me. Lena pulled out the building schematics Alexei had acquired. Your man comes with me as agreed, but you have people already in place, kitchen staff, other diners, surrounding buildings. When Kozlov makes his move, you're ready. If this goes wrong, it won't. Lena took his hand. Trust me. Trust us. Adrian pulled her close, pressing his forehead to hers. If anything happens to you, I'll burn the world down. I know, that's why nothing will happen. She kissed him softly. We've survived worse than Kozlov. We'll survive this too. The next evening, Lena dressed carefully. Elegant, but not provocative. Strong, but not threatening. She wore the bracelet Katya had given her for luck, and the pearl earrings from her wedding. Adrian helped her into a bulletproof vest disguised as a designer top, his hands gentle despite the violence they were preparing for. Remember the signal, he said. Anything goes wrong, you say the safe word and my people move immediately. Firefly, Lena confirmed. They'd chosen it together, something that had no reason to come up in normal conversation. I'll be listening to everything, watching everything. Adrian cupped her face. You're the bravest person I know. I learned from the best. The restaurant was upscale Russian, the kind of place where deals were made and enemies buried. Lena arrived exactly on time with one of Adrian's most trusted men, Victor's replacement, a quiet professional named Sergei. They were shown to a private room in the back. Kozlov was already there, a bear of a man with cruel eyes and expensive taste. His sister Elena sat beside him, along with 4 bodyguards who didn't bother hiding their weapons. Mrs. Volkov, Kozlov said, his accent thick and menacing. Sit. We have much to discuss. Lena sat across from him, Sergei standing behind her chair. Through her hidden earpiece, she could hear Adrian breathing, could feel his presence even though he was blocks away. You threaten children, she said without preamble. Why? Kozlov shrugged. Because it worked. Look at you, ready to bargain. Your husband would never have come to negotiate. But you? You have weakness, compassion. It makes you easy to manipulate. Or maybe it makes me smart enough to avoid unnecessary violence. Perhaps. Kozlov leaned forward. Here is my offer. You leave Adrian publicly, file for divorce, give interviews about how you can't live with his violence anymore. Make him look weak, make him look like he lost control of his own wife. In return, I leave your foundation alone. I might even donate, show what a generous man I am. And Adrian? Adrian rebuilds his reputation by being ruthless again, proves he's still dangerous. Everyone wins. Lena pretended to consider this. What guarantee do I have that you'll keep your word? You have my promise. In our world, that means something. In your world, maybe. But I've learned that promises mean nothing without power to back them up. She met his eyes. So here's my counteroffer. You and your sister leave this city. Take your operations back east where they belong. Never threaten my foundation or anyone I care about again. Do that, and I won't tell my husband to destroy everything you've built. Kozlov stared at her for a moment. Then he laughed, a booming sound that filled the room. You think you can threaten me? You think your husband scares me? I think you came to this meeting because you're afraid, Lena said calmly. You're afraid that Adrian isn't as soft as you hoped, that attacking his wife might be the biggest mistake you ever made. So you're trying to get me to leave peacefully, hoping it will weaken him without you having to actually fight him. The laughter stopped. Careful, Mrs. Volkov. No, I'm done being careful. Lena stood. I'm done with people like you thinking you can use me to hurt the man I love. You want a war with Adrian? You'll get one. But don't hide behind threats against children. Face him like the powerful man you claim to be. Kozlov's face darkened. Sit down. I don't think so. This meeting is over. I said sit down. Kozlov nodded to his men who moved to block the exit. This was it. The moment everything hinged on. Lena said clearly, This firefly wants to leave now. Everything exploded into motion. The doors burst open as Adrian's men flooded in from multiple directions. The waiter, who'd been hovering nearby, pulled a gun. The businessman in the corner booth revealed himself as Dmitri, weapon already drawn. Sergei moved in front of Lena, his own gun covering Kozlov. Within seconds, Kozlov and his people were surrounded by 15 armed men, all loyal to Adrian. Then Adrian himself walked through the door. He looked magnificent and terrifying, dressed all in black, moving with lethal purpose. His eyes swept the room, cataloging threats, before settling on Lena. Are you hurt? He asked. I'm fine. Good. He turned to Kozlov. You threatened my wife, threatened children under her protection. Did you really think I'd let that stand? Kozlov's face was purple with rage. You violate neutral ground. This is against all rules. You violated the rules when you threatened innocents. Adrian's voice could cut glass. There's no honor in using children as weapons. No protection in our code for men like you. You can't kill me. My organization? Your organization is already dismantled. I've spent the last 48 hours buying out your lieutenants, seizing your assets, turning your allies against you. You're finished, Kozlov. You just didn't know it yet. Elena spoke up, her earlier confidence gone. We'll leave. We'll go back east, never return. No. Adrian's smile was cold. You had your chance to walk away. You chose to threaten what's mine instead. He looked at his men. Take them. Adrian, wait. Lena stepped forward. Let them go. Everyone stared at her. Adrian's expression was carefully neutral. Lena, not because they deserve it, because we're better than this. She looked at Kozlov. You wanted to make Adrian weak by making him care about something. But that's not weakness. It's evolution. He's strong enough now to choose mercy when it serves a purpose. What purpose does this serve? Adrian asked quietly. It sends a message that we don't need to kill everyone who threatens us, that we're secure enough in our power to let some enemies live as warnings to others. She turned back to Kozlov. You leave tonight. You liquidate all your holdings in this city and donate the proceeds to foundations that help at-risk youth. You spend the rest of your life knowing you're alive only because I convinced my husband to spare you. And if you ever threaten anyone I care about again, I'll let him finish what he started. Kozlov looked between them, clearly calculating odds. Finally, he nodded. Agreed. Say it. Adrian commanded. Say you owe your life to my wife's mercy. The words clearly tasted like poison, but Kozlov forced them out. I owe my life to Mrs. Volkov's mercy. Good. Adrian gestured to his men. Escort them to the airport. Make sure they get on a plane heading east. If either of them is still in California by sunrise, kill them. After Kozlov and Elena were removed, Adrian crossed to Lena and pulled her into his arms. That was either the smartest thing you've ever done or the most dangerous. Maybe both. Lena melted into his embrace. But it felt right. We don't need to be monsters anymore. I'll always be a monster. No. She pulled back to look at him. You'll always be capable of monstrous things. There's a difference. And choosing when not to be that monster, that's real power. Adrian kissed her deeply, not caring about their audience. When he finally pulled back, his eyes were bright with something that might have been tears. How did I get so lucky? He murmured. You bought me, remember? Best investment I ever made. They left the restaurant surrounded by Adrian's people, driving back to the estate in comfortable silence. The threat was over. Kozlov would leave and never return, not out of honor, but out of fear, and the understanding that he'd been completely outmaneuvered. Back home, Lena stood on their terrace overlooking the city while Adrian made calls, ensuring Kozlov's departure went smoothly. When he finally joined her, he wrapped his arms around her from behind. The foundation can reopen, he said. I've tripled security. No one will threaten those kids again. Thank you. You don't need to thank me. They're under our protection now. Anyone who touches them answers to me. He paused. To us. Lena turned in his arms. I've been thinking. About? About what we do next. We've built the foundation. We've dealt with the threats. We've proven we can survive in this world together. She smiled. What if we did more? What did you have in mind? What if we changed things? Really changed them? You have power, resources, connections. What if we use them not just to maintain your empire, but to make it better? Cleaner operations. Better treatment of the people who work for you. Actually helping communities instead of just bleeding them dry. Adrian studied her face. You want me to go legitimate. I want us to evolve. You're not the same man who bought me a year ago. You've grown, changed. Your empire should change too. She touched his face. I'm not asking you to become someone you're not, just to be intentional about who you're becoming. He was quiet for a long moment. It would take years, maybe decades, and there would still be violence, still be danger. I know, but we'd be building something sustainable, something that could outlive us. Her hand moved to her stomach in an unconscious gesture. Something our children could be proud of. Adrian's eyes widened. Children? Lena smiled. Not yet, but someday. And when that day comes, I want them to inherit an empire worth having. Not just power and fear, but something real. Something good. Adrian pulled her close, his heart hammering against her ear. You want to have my children? Eventually. If you want that too. I want everything with you. His voice was rough with emotion. A future, a family, a life that's more than just surviving. I want it all. Then let's build it, together. They stood holding each other as the city lights glittered below, two people who'd found each other in darkness and chosen to create light. The path ahead wouldn't be easy. Adrian's world never was. But they'd proven they could survive it, could thrive in it, could reshape it to fit their vision. Over the next year, changes began to ripple through Adrian's organization. Illegal operations were gradually shut down or converted to legitimate businesses. Protection rackets became actual security services. Money laundering networks transformed into proper investment firms. It wasn't perfect. Some things couldn't be cleaned up entirely. But it was progress. The foundation flourished. More buildings opened in other cities. Thousands of kids got chances they never would have had otherwise. Lena hired staff who'd lived through the same struggles, people who understood what these children needed because they'd needed it themselves. And she discovered she was pregnant. Adrian took the news with surprising calm, though his hands shook when she showed him the test. He immediately increased her security detail, baby-proofed the estate months early, and read every book on parenting he could find. You're adorable when you're nervous, Lena told him, watching him assemble a crib at 3 in the morning. I'm terrified, he admitted. What if I'm no good at this? You'll be amazing. You already protect everyone you care about. Now you'll have one more person to protect. It's different. A child, Lena. Someone who'll depend on us completely. Someone we'll teach to be strong, brave, kind. She placed his hand on her growing belly. Someone who'll know they're loved unconditionally. Their daughter was born on a spring morning, tiny and perfect and screaming with fury at the world. Adrian held her with tears streaming down his face, this monster of a man rendered helpless by 7 pounds of angry infant. She's beautiful, he breathed. She's so beautiful. What should we name her? Lena asked. They discussed names for months but never quite agreed. Now looking at their daughter, Adrian said, Arya. It means lioness in Hebrew. Our little fighter. Arya Volkov. Lena smiled. It's perfect. Life shifted again, rearranging around this new person who demanded everything and gave back infinite love. Lena reduced her hours at the foundation, working from home when possible. Adrian scheduled his business around feeding times and nap schedules, conducting meetings with a baby carrier strapped to his chest. Dmitri and Katya were honorary grandparents, spoiling Arya shamelessly. Alexei taught her to laugh by making ridiculous faces. Even Adrian's hardened soldiers melted around the baby, competing to hold her during meetings. You've gone completely soft, Lena teased Adrian one evening, watching him sing Russian lullabies to their sleeping daughter. I'm terrifying, he protested. People still fear me. People fear you'll bore them to death talking about Arya's developmental milestones. He grinned, unrepentant. She smiled at me today. A real smile, not gas. It was the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. See? Soft. Only for you two. Everyone else should still be terrified. As Arya grew, Lena watched Adrian transform further. He was still dangerous. You didn't survive in his position without teeth, but he chose his battles more carefully now. Chose mercy more often. Chose to build rather than destroy when possible. The Empire shifted to match. By the time Arya was 3, over 60% of Adrian's operations were completely legitimate. The remaining questionable activities were insulated enough that when Arya was older, she wouldn't have to know about them unless she chose to. Lena's foundation had expanded to 12 cities, helping thousands of kids annually. She'd written a book about second chances that became a bestseller. She spoke at conferences, appeared on television, used her platform to advocate for children who had no voice. And through it all, Adrian stood beside her, proud, protective, constantly amazed by what she'd accomplished. On their 5th wedding anniversary, the second one, the real one, they returned to the island where everything had changed. Arya stayed with Dmitri and Katya, giving Adrian and Lena a weekend alone. They walked the beach where they'd first really talked, where walls had started coming down. The house had been fully repaired after the attack, no trace remaining of that violence. 5 years, Lena said, watching the sunset paint the ocean gold. Feels like a lifetime. Feels like yesterday. Adrian pulled her close. You know what I remember most about our first time here? What? The moment I realized I was in love with you. Really in love, not just wanting or possessing. It was when you were floating in the ocean, staring at the sky, and you said you felt alive for the first time in years. He smiled. I wanted to make you feel that way forever. You have. Every single day. You make me feel alive. Even when I'm being overprotective and paranoid? Especially then. It means you care. She turned to face him. Do you ever regret it? This life we've built? Sometimes I wonder if you missed the simplicity of before, when it was just you and your empire. Never. Adrian's voice was fierce. You gave me something I didn't know existed, purpose beyond power, love without conditions, a family I actually want to protect instead of just controlling. He cupped her face. You saved me, Lena. From becoming something so dark I wouldn't have recognized myself. We saved each other. Yeah, we did. They made love as the sun set, slow and tender, a celebration of everything they'd survived and everything they'd built. Afterward, lying tangled together in silk sheets, Lena said, I want another baby. Adrian propped himself up on one elbow. Yeah? Arya should have a sibling, someone to grow up with, someone to share this world we're building. Another chance for me to be a terrified first-time parent? You're a wonderful father. And you'll be wonderful with the next one, too. She smiled. Besides, I want Arya to know she's not alone, that she has family who'll stand with her no matter what, like we stand with each other. Exactly like that. Their son was born 18 months later, quiet, where Arya was loud, contemplative, where she was fierce. They named him Dmitri after their friend, a name that meant follower of Demeter, goddess of harvest and protection. With 2 children, life became beautifully chaotic, the estate filled with laughter and crying and the constant noise of family. Adrian's meetings were frequently interrupted by small people demanding attention. Lena's foundation work was scheduled around school pickups and bedtime routines, and somehow, through it all, they made it work. The empire continued evolving. By the time Dmitri was 5 and Arya was 7, Adrian had divested from almost everything illegal. He maintained just enough dangerous connections to protect what was his, but the bulk of his wealth came from legitimate investments and businesses. They weren't saints, they'd never be saints, but they were better than they'd been. Lena stood in the foundation's newest building, watching kids stream in for after-school programs, and felt overwhelming gratitude for this life, for this second chance, for the man who'd bought her as property and chosen to see her as a partner instead. Adrian came up behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist. Thinking deep thoughts? Thinking about how far we've come, how different everything is from that first wedding. When you looked at me like I was a death sentence, you were a death sentence to the person I was before. She leaned back against him. But you were also a beginning, the start of something I never imagined possible. Us? Us. This family. This life we've built from nothing but violence and determination and love. She turned to face him. I spent so long thinking I was trapped, that being sold to you meant my life was over. But really, it was just starting. I'm glad you stayed, Adrian said quietly. I'm glad you gave me a chance to prove I could be more than the monster who bought you. You proved it every day. You're still proving it. They stood watching the kids, some who reminded Lena of herself, desperate and scared and hoping for rescue. She'd been them once, and now she got to be the person who helped them find their way out. Do you think they'll understand? Adrian asked suddenly. When Arya and Dmitri are older, when they learn about everything we did, everything we were, do you think they'll understand why? I think we'll raise them to understand that people are complicated, that good and bad aren't as simple as children's stories make them seem. Lena squeezed his hand. And I think they'll see that we chose to be better, that we used power to protect instead of destroy. That matters more than where we started. I hope you're right. I am right. You'll see. That evening, they gathered for dinner at Dmitri and Katya's house, their extended family filling the massive dining room with noise and laughter. Arya sat on Dmitri's lap while he told stories that were definitely inappropriate for 7-year-olds but made her giggle anyway. Dmitri helped Katya set the table with serious concentration. Alexei taught both children a card game that Adrian suspected was actually gambling but didn't have the heart to stop. This was family, not blood. Most of them weren't related, but choice. People who'd survived the same darkness and come out the other side still capable of love. After dinner, after the kids were asleep upstairs under the watchful eyes of Dmitri's security, the adults gathered on the terrace with drinks and comfortable silence. I'm retiring, Dmitri announced suddenly. Everyone turned to stare. What? Adrian asked. I'm old. I'm tired. And I want to spend time with Katya while I still can. Dmitri smiled. You've shown me it's possible, Adrian, to step back from the darkness, to choose something different. What will you do? Travel. Spoil our grandchildren. He gestured at Arya and Dmitri. And maybe actually enjoy the money I've spent my life accumulating. Adrian raised his glass. To retirement. May it be everything you deserve. They all drank, and Lena felt something shift. A chapter closing, a new one beginning. The old guard stepping back, making room for whatever came next. Later, driving home through quiet streets with their children sleeping in the back seat, Adrian said, He's right, about stepping back. Are you thinking about retiring? Not entirely, but maybe differently. Let the legitimate businesses run themselves. Focus more on family, on actually living instead of just surviving. Lena took his hand. I think that sounds perfect. Yeah? Yeah, we fought enough, built enough, proved enough. Maybe it's time to just be. Be what? Happy. A family. People who've earned their peace. Adrian brought her hand to his lips, kissing her knuckles. I love you. I love you too. The years continued to unfold, each one building on the last. Arya grew into a fierce, intelligent girl who asked difficult questions and refused easy answers. Dmitri became thoughtful and kind, with a talent for seeing through people's facades to the truth underneath. They were good kids, better than Adrian and Lena had any right to expect, given their world. But they were also strong, capable of defending themselves, aware that their family was different even if they didn't fully understand why yet. On Lena's 35th birthday, Adrian surprised her with a trip back to the island. Just the two of them, the kids staying with Dmitri and Katya, who'd become permanent grandparents despite no blood relation. They arrived at sunset, the house exactly as beautiful as Lena remembered. So much had happened here, so many beginnings. I have something for you, Adrian said after dinner, producing a small box. Lena opened it to find a key. What's this? The island. It's yours. Legally, officially yours. Not ours. Yours. He smiled at her confusion. Everything else we share. But this place, where we really fell in love, where you became who you are now, I want you to have it completely. A place that's just yours, where you're in control of everything. Tears burned her eyes. Adrian, you were bought once. Sold like property. I never want you to feel owned again, not even by me. So this is yours. Your sanctuary. Your kingdom. He cupped her face. You're the queen of my empire, Lena, but you're also your own person, with your own power, your own choices. Never forget that. She kissed him through her tears, pouring a decade of love and gratitude and choosing into the connection. When they finally broke apart, she said, You know the irony? What? You bought me, but I own you completely. Have from the moment you admitted you'd been watching me for years. You're mine, Adrian Volkov. Entirely, completely mine. Always have been. Always will be. He smiled. Think you can handle being stuck with me forever? I think I can manage. They spent the week swimming and talking and making love like newlyweds. No children to interrupt. No business to demand attention. Just two people who'd chosen each other against all odds, celebrating the life they'd built together. On their last night, lying under the stars on the beach, Adrian said, Do you ever think about how it all started? How wrong it was? Sometimes, but I've stopped regretting it. Lena turned to look at him. I wish it had been different. I wish we'd met some other way, that you'd courted me properly, that I'd chosen you freely from the start. But we can't change the past. We can only change what we do with it. And what have we done with it? We've built something beautiful from something terrible. We've taken violence and turned it into protection. We've taken possession and turned it into partnership. We've taken darkness and created light. She smiled. We've proven that people can change, that love can transform even the most broken things into something whole. Adrian pulled her close. I don't deserve you. Probably not, but you have me anyway. Best deal I ever made. You didn't make a deal. You bought me, remember? And you could have run, could have hated me, could have let yourself be destroyed by everything that happened. He kissed her forehead. Instead, you stayed. You fought. You chose me even when you didn't have to. That's the real miracle. Not that I found you, but that you found something worth loving in me. It wasn't hard. You just needed someone to see past the monster. No, I needed you specifically. Only you could have done this, changed me, saved me, loved me despite everything. They fell asleep on the beach, wrapped in each other's arms, the ocean singing them to sleep with its eternal rhythm. When they returned home, life resumed its beautiful chaos. Arya started asking about her father's business, too smart to miss the hints of something unusual in how people reacted to the Volkov name. Dmitri began showing interest in the foundation, spending afternoons helping kids with homework. They were growing up, learning who they were, who they wanted to be. And Adrian and Lena guided them as best they could, honest about their past without burdening them with details they weren't ready for. On the 10th anniversary of their real wedding, they renewed their vows one more time. this time with their children as witnesses, with Dmitri and Katya and Alexei and their entire chosen family gathered to celebrate. Lena wore the same ivory dress, still perfect after a decade. Adrian wore a new suit, but the same expression of wonder he'd worn the first time. And when the officiant asked if they chose each other, they answered together. Always. The party afterward was loud and joyful, children running wild, adults trading stories and laughter. At one point, Lena found herself standing with Katya, watching Adrian dance with both their children, his face bright with happiness. "You did good," Katya said. "Both of you. Built something real from nothing." "We had help. Lots of help." "Yes, but you had vision. You saw what could be and you made it real." Katya squeezed her hand. "I'm proud of you, daughter of my heart." The words broke something in Lena, some last piece of the girl who'd been sold by her father, who'd believed she was alone in the world. She had a family now. Real family. Chosen family. She had everything she'd ever wanted and things she'd never dared to dream. As the night wound down and guests began leaving, Adrian found Lena on the terrace where she'd stood so many times before, looking out at the city they'd shaped together. "What are you thinking?" he asked. "That I'm happy. Completely, unreservedly happy." She leaned into him. "That we did it. We survived everything thrown at us and came out stronger. We did it together. The only way it would have worked." Adrian turned her to face him, his eyes serious. "If you could go back, knowing everything that would happen, the fear, the violence, the danger, would you still choose this?" "Choose me." Lena didn't hesitate. "Every single time, in every possible world, I'd choose you, choose this life, choose our family, because it's ours, Adrian. We built it together from ashes and blood and stubborn determination to be better than we were." "No regrets?" "Not one." She smiled. "Well, maybe one. I regret that first wedding. The ugly dress, the sterile office, the feeling of being sold. I wish that could have been different. Everything else? Everything else is perfect. Beautifully, messily, dangerously perfect." She kissed him softly. "You bought me, Adrian Volkov, but I chose you. I choose you still. I'll choose you forever." "Forever," he echoed. "That's a long time." "Not long enough." They stood holding each other as the party continued inside, as their children laughed with their chosen grandparents, as the city glittered below like possibility made manifest. Two people who'd started as buyer and bought, monster and victim, had become partners, equals, lovers, parents, friends. They'd built an empire, yes, but more importantly, they'd built a home, a family, a life worth living. And if that wasn't redemption, nothing was. Lena had been sold to settle a debt, but she'd bought her freedom with courage, claimed her power with determination, and found her home in the arms of the man who'd purchased her. They say you can't build a future on blood and violence. But Adrian and Lena had proven otherwise. They'd taken the worst beginning possible and transformed it into something beautiful. Because love, real love, chosen freely despite every reason not to, could rewrite any destiny, and theirs was just beginning.